And we are live. It's myself, Mojo Blues, and Gray Wolf Gamer. So,
Hello.
how are you?
Good,
You there?
good. How are you doing? Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm doing good.
no, everything's good. Just interesting week with some news. With I know Sony's next week and Xbox. They dropped. I know you did a podcast on this like 2 days ago, but um, the Xbox announced two models. I was surprised they were the first out of the gate with the price. $300 digital only, and of course the $500 Series X. So with Sony's new upcoming broadcast rather, this Wednesday, I guess, was it?
Yeah,
We'll see what they do, what they announce. They'd be very, very stupid to go over $500 personally. Um, so
yeah,
we'll
I think
see what happens.
it's a lot. The PS5 with the disc drive is 500. The real question will be their side edition. Will it be 450 or will they suck it up and go all the way down to the 399? To try to get a little closer to that Series S price. And I don't think they will. I think it'll be $49.99. So I think $50 is all they're going to take. Yeah, because they're not saving much money pulling that disk drive out.
Yeah, I think you're right. No, because it's the same hardware. The only difference is the disk drive. So, and there's no other. It's not like the Series S rather, that they actually reduced the hardware a bit to get it down to 300. But it was still smart what they did. I mean, that's an incredible entry, price. I mean, for me, it's not so great just because again, I'd rather have the X. Plus, I have physical media, so I don't think unless Microsoft does this weird, crazy thing with what's on your hard drive without the disk. I don't think they could actually get the Series S and have the same experience because, like I said, most of my games are physical. So I know you have like a lot of downloaded, so you're in good shape with that. But you're gonna get the X anyway, I'm assuming.
But yeah, I'm definitely getting
Fine.
that.
Yeah.
I just got too much invested in that. Microsoft, yeah, they pulled me in with their digital crap. And once you get so much on there, man, you're locked into that ecosystem. I'm not giving all that up. Let it all carry forward. I got 800 games digitally on the
Right.
Xbox. I want all 800 of those are coming with me on the Series X. It's a great, great thing. And I
No, it
don't
is.
need, I don't have to already have no disc and things. They just automatically, I'll plug in my current hard disk drive and all those games. I can move them to the SSD to play as needed. And a lot of them won't need that, by the way. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of these previous generation
Oh
games
yeah.
are going to play fine off your current hard disk drive. They don't need to be on your SSD. It's the new Xbox Series X games that were designed for that are going to need that SSD. So you'll have to move those from whatever storage you have them on onto your uh, internal
SSD.
SSD.
Right.
And
But that's
again,
not so bad though.
I want to put it out there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell people I don't believe that $220 price for the SSD expansion thing is real. I think that was bullshit, fake stuff that it was from a GameStop. It's probably a placeholder or something. I don't know, but somebody
Right.
wanted to damage Xbox, putting out something negative. Oh, look what this is going to cost. I think it's only going to be about 150, which is still kind of pricey, but it's for an SSD expansion. That's actually pretty good. So, but we'll
No,
see.
I agree.
I hope I'm not wrong on this, and I don't think I am, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I agree. I don't see Microsoft being this aggressive with the system prices and suddenly, backtracking on like the accessories and saying, okay, we're going to charge almost the price of the system for one drive. No, I don't see that happening. So I think you're right.
Yeah, and all these so-called YouTube experts are saying that, and then I could start naming them off. Oh, it's got to be that expensive because SSDs and MV, whatever, dot. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
this is how much they cost, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking that Microsoft, when they went to Seagate, they said, listen, we're going to sell at a minimum 50 million consoles. So we're going to need probably 20 to 30 million of these things. Let's get the price down reasonable. And they do that. Now, but we'll see.
Yeah.
It's Seagate.
Plus, Microsoft's in a good position to take a hit.
Yeah, but if it is 207, Microsoft's going to be like, hey, use your current drives to store it and just move them over. They're not the ones making that drive, and they're not controlling the price of it because they're letting Seagate do it. So we'll see. But I said it last week, and I've said it on other shows. I don't think that price was real. Now I've heard some other people that I King David from the Iron Lords has said that's not a real price. He thinks it's 150, which is what I'd said. So we'll see. But we'll come back stuff in the Sony show. But I want to talk about the Marvel stuff. As big as Marvel and Disney are, they're having movies getting pushed back. That Falcon Winter Soldier, it's finally went back into production down in Atlanta, but they're already saying it's not coming when the original. We're not going to get it this year. It's going to be sometime next year. Probably be pretty early next year. I don't think it's a big pushback, but I get it when movies push back because they're going to lose money.
Yeah, I think this pandemic has really made it.
You're starting to break up. I'm not even hearing you now, but for movies, it's a big deal because they can only fill theaters up halfway. And a lot of theaters aren't even open at all. So they're putting the movie out right now as big blockbuster type movies is almost suicidal for the Hollywood studios.
It really is.
But for the TV shows, that's a different animal altogether. They're just having to push stuff back because they got all these safety things in place. And I get that. I no problem with that. These actors, big ones like Robert Pattinson tested positive for COVID and shut Batman production down. Hey, they're paying that dude a lot of money, and they're paying all these people lots of money, and you can't. Once you start filming, it's bad to shut down productions and things like that. So sometimes they just follow all these safety protocols. It takes much longer to film stuff. And now that some of them are going back and getting filmed, there's going to be delays. But the delays should not be as bad for television programs and things. Once they get them on their sets and things, filming, it's not like a movie. They're not going to lose any money because this is being aired over television or cable or streamed. But movies, you can't get butts into theaters. I mean, Tenet only made, 10 million on its debut weekend in the U.S. It had a fairly robust European weekend or the week before, but it didn't do that well in the U.S. And movies like Bill and Ted crashed and burned. Nothing's done real good in the theaters because there's not enough back open, and even the ones that are open can't fully fill the seats. I think because this is going to drag on for a while. Hollywood may realize that we're just going to have to leave these movies in these theaters for a lot longer than we used to. We can't pull them out as quick if they want that theater money. Now, if they want to pull them quicker and put them on streaming services, that's a different animal. And, that's the problem that's happening with Black Widow right now. They're trying to – I think there are pressures within Disney trying to push Marvel into making that show or that movie onto their streaming service. They don't want to, So instead, I've heard it's been pushed back again for theater release, and I think they're debating on whether send it straight to Disney streaming, which I'm not a fan of that. I liked it when it was just Netflix and Amazon Prime, but now there's 30 streaming services trying to get your money. You there, Grey Wolf? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool.
I'm here. Can you hear me? okay?
Yeah, you bought it a little bit there.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. Let me see if that works. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Testing. Okay.
You're
I just
good.
switched headsets, so hopefully that. I
Yeah,
still got to get my setup, at home. I haven't had a chance.
I'm using I use a computer wise just a Surface Pro 6, but I got a snowball mic hooked up separately to it. And, although the mic in the Surface Pro is actually pretty good, it sounds just as a snowball, to be honest. But I like using that snowball because I can pull it over. But I don't get too much
Yeah.
botting and other problems with it. I mean, I have a nice headset with a mic on it. I guess I could use that too, but because the mic don't pick up the Surface Pro. I don't understand how that works or how it knows not to, but I don't get botting and other people when I'm doing this didn't say, oh, yeah, it's all messed up. Even though my little Surface Pro sets less than 2 feet from my snowball mic.
Right. Yeah, I just I have a little Bluetooth headset that I use, but unfortunately, it's not always the clearest in the world. So I'm switching to wired.
Yeah,
I got to get a better headset.
Yeah, I've got the I have a wireless one, but it works wired too. The Rig 800 XL or LX, not XL, but it's pretty good. But for podcasting stuff, you're better off with a separate mic that's wired and then internet wired too.
Right.
But hey, you use what you got, and that's fine too. Hey, Xbox 448 popped into our chat. We got a big time person.
Hey there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I appreciate that. He's big time compared to us. We're tiny right now, man. But we took his old time slot, so that's cool. He popped in and said hi. He's like, "How you
That's cool.
thinking?"
Hello.
Well, we're gonna get to how I'm thinking about that whole Sony show and what they're gonna do. I hope he stays around and listens. Well, we're only gonna be on. We're gonna keep this at an hour, so we might just kind of slide over to that. Well, we mentioned that I already thought 5. When that show ends, they're going to announce pre-orders right now. They're going to beat Microsoft to the punch by 6 days. If people are buying or pre-ordering that PS5, when it comes time to pre-order the Xbox, they're going to have to scratch their head and go, "Oh, money, yeah." But maybe that's where that whole all access is going to come in great for Microsoft. Hopefully, a lot more people will be using that.
It'll be interesting to see. Definitely. I agree. I agree. I'm waiting for pre-orders. The rumor was, well, obviously, it's the deadline's passed, that they were going to open pre-orders on the 10th, but that didn't happen. This is Sony, by the way, and I know that I got a notice from Best Buy. I know that this is pretty much public at this point, but on the 22nd, the Xbox is going live, with the pre-orders. So we'll see what Sony does. We'll see what Sony
Yeah, I
does.
think they're going to go live next Wednesday after that show. They're going to announce the pre-orders. And that way they got 6 whole days to get people pre-ordering that PS5 before they pre-order the Xbox.
It'll definitely be interesting. I know that for me, and this is just me. This isn't really anyone else, but since I have so many PS4 games, I'm really interested to know, and this is the information I want. So what does the PS4 compatibility really look like? I mean, yeah, they said most games, but I want details. I'm hoping they cover this on Wednesday. So we'll see. I don't expect Xbox level compatibility. That's that's their own thing, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, uh, it'll be interesting to find out. Negative stuff we've been hearing the last couple of days. The Series S won't be on the level of back compat that the Xbox One X is, which of course not. The One X was 4K. The One S is not the Series S is not a 4K machine. It's not supposed to do that. It's not going to be for 4K gaming. It's going to be 1440p. So I don't know why that people thought that's a great negative to throw out there. To me, it's like, yeah, it just makes total sense. It's still going to be better than the One X. You know, it's got the much better processor.
Yeah.
It's just on the GPU side, it is not going to go to 4K because that's not what that box. That's not who they're selling to. They've already got the Series X to sell to graphic whores like me that love 4K. I'm not a.
Yeah, me too.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying 60 frames because I do, and I know how much better 60 frames is. But at the same time, I don't mind when games are only 30 frames when they're at full 4K. It's never been that big a deal to me. You know, I don't play a whole lot of first person shooters and things like that where it's absolutely to have 60 frames because I don't like those kind of games. So for me, all the Sony games have always been the big over the shoulder single player games that people love so much. Those have always been 30 frames and they're fine.
Right.
God of War is only 30 frames. It's supposed to be the greatest game in the history of all gaming.
That's true. My take on that is I don't mind 30 frames a second at all, as long as it's consistent. It's when it starts getting dropping all over the place, like the old generation, the Xbox, not the Xbox, I'm sorry, the PS3 days, when they couldn't even maintain 30 frames a second, it kept dipping down in the 20s. That drives me nuts. But if they can maintain 30 at 4K, I'm okay with that myself. I'm okay with Forza 4, Forza Horizon 4. It doesn't bother me that it runs at 30 frames a second at 4K. On the Xbox One X, I expect it to be 60. On the new system, of course, but it didn't bother me. I appreciated the fidelity, and the 30 frames was consistent. So, and if you really want it, you can do the performance mode at 1080p and at 60. But either way, I was good with it. So I'm kind of agreeing with you.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't like frame rates that jump around. So I mean, even at 60, I don't want them jumping down to 50 and up to 70.
Oh, right.
I want them locked. So hopefully that's on these new systems. That's what we'll get. We'll get a locked 60 on most games, and in that occasional crazy game, it'll be 120. Like racing games and things, or last gen games that they can ramp up to 120, like Gears of War. Well, I guess it's just Gears. They don't call it Gears Up or Wars. I guess that was considered.
Yeah.
Although we still got God of War.
It worked back in the day. Different time.
Yeah, I just thought that was weak on Xbox's part. It wasn't even Xbox. That was from that studio and the guy that ran it. And he's gone now. As great as he was, he's gone. So the next Gears game, hopefully they'll go back to Gears of War, and they'll finish out this 3-game story arc. And then when they do the next 3, hopefully they'll go back or even if they don't go back to the original guy, they'll get a character better than his son or that girl, and they'll have characters that people actually like and care about. I think it is taking writing. I don't think they had that on these last couple of games. They were still really good games. I just don't think their stories was quite as strong as the previous 3 games, which was just amazing. I love Gears, but I'm not a multiplayer guy. I just love the campaigns in them, and I just always thought they were amazing.
I'm the same way. I mean, I enjoyed Halo for the story, especially the originals. I never really played the multiplayer, and everyone's like looks at me funny when I say that, but it's true. I'm not so much a multiplayer person myself. I prefer the single player experience. I want the story. So
Yeah, it's weird that I'm not a big time Sony fanboy because I love single player games. I'm just not a multiplayer guy. Never have been. But I mean, it is what it is. I love Xbox.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
The first, I mean, I had a PS2, I had PS1, but during that PS2, when that Xbox came out, it was like, holy crap! These games look way better than what they do. Hell, even the GameCube, that games look better than PS2. Although PS2 crushed everybody that generation, but yeah, there was no stopping them.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
the PS2 games don't hold up as well as OG Xbox games or even GameCube games. Hold up better. I mean, you can play all those GameCube games on a Wii, and they just still look great. PS2 games,
that's true.
Do yeah, but it's because there was so many on the PS2. I shouldn't say that. It's not an all or nothing. There's plenty of great PS2 games, so people please don't come at me with hate. I'm not slandering the people. I had multiple ones and still have them. Yeah, there's lots of great games, but I'm just saying graphically and the 3D in them, and some of them just doesn't hold up as well as what the Xbox were done at a higher fidelity. The GameCube was one of the 3 games seemed to hold up no matter what from any generation.
Well, in terms of the power at that time, it really was the PS2 was at the bottom, GameCube was in the middle, and the Xbox was the top. I know the original Xbox I really had a lot for. I had bought all the racers. I'm a big racing fan too, so I had Outrun, which I would love to see an Outrun. I know they lost the license for Ferrari, but do an Outrun without the Ferrari license. On an Xbox One X or Xbox Series X. I would just love to see that because that game was so much fun. But that was incredible. What they did on the Xbox was just amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get the high def version on the 360 because they yanked the license before the chance to download it. Oh wow! But Panzer Dragoon Warta, that's an awesome game. I was right now still only on the Xbox. Of course, the original Xbox had the original Halo and Halo 2, and they just had a lot of great games, and a lot of the games, like the multi-platform games, they were always put on the Xbox. Prince of Persia, which interestingly, they are re-releasing it for all the new generation systems, so that should be good, and current generations. That's a fun game. So we'll see.
You're kind of botting a little bit.
I agree.
Pretty bad. Hopefully, people got most of that.
I was just commenting on the Xbox games and the different ones that I played that I liked. So hopefully they got most of it. Next week, next time I do this, I am going to have a wired headset.
Yeah, kind of might help a little bit.
Looks like Xbox got most of that. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me, I don't even have he's laughing. Yeah, but I don't use my PlayStation very often anymore either. And I've got a Pro that just says collecting dust. My bad. My son had it for months and months, and he's sitting beside his computer, and he only used it for the PlayStation stuff, and even that he got bored with it and stopped using it. So now.
To be honest, of all the systems I use most, ironically enough, it's Switch, just because it's portable and it's easier to,
play it wherever I can. But this generation, I definitely want PS4 more than Xbox. I have an Xbox One, of course. I don't typically have no problems, but just went with Sony because I like a lot of their games. And at least before the One X came out, a lot of the games were slightly better on the PlayStation 4. So I just kind of stuck with that. So that's why I'm kind of leaning toward the PS5 more, at least at first, just because I have such a backlog and it's such a huge PS4 collection. So, but we'll see when they bring, and then depending on what they do, if they go over $500, that's a deal breaker for me. That's a lot of people will too. I don't think that I keep 500 the top model, and we'll see. That's me. So I lean toward the PlayStation this time, but I don't have. I'm not like unless I'm a fanboy. I love the Xbox too. I like old systems. I will play it, and even like PC games. I'm primarily a console player. I think all the systems bring something cool to the table. And if you're lucky enough to own more than one or all of them, so much the better. You have the best of everything. So, but no matter what you pick, you're in shape. Xbox is in a great position this next generation. Regardless what Sony does, I think they'll still hold their own. Nintendo, there's a rumor that they might be introducing a Switch Pro, which we'll see what happens there. But
yeah, well, they get that. I think because the S undercut basically even the Switch. I mean, because they're basically, yeah. I think Nintendo's got that whole rumors about a 4K Switch. That's definitely true. They're going to have to, because I think people are going to start buying these S's and X's and PS5s like crazy. I think Nintendo sales are going to finally slow down. So they're going to come 4K Switch, 4K on the go. Yeah.
I'm very curious how they're going to fit a 4K, at least an adequate 4K. I know technology is just insanely moving fast, but at an affordable price and affordable format. But they may surprise us. Maybe something crazy, like especially if they do NVIDIA, because their team up with NVIDIA is amazing. NVIDIA to me is still the best graphics card manufacturer out there. I mean, no offense to ATI or anything like that, but I'm an NVIDIA fan, so so we'll see what they do.
Yeah, the big question still is Sony and their price. Are they willing to take a loss? And if they are, how big of a loss? And I don't see them going over 500. That would just kick.
Yeah, Nintendo's never really sold at a loss. I think they only sold
Xbox last gen.
Yeah.
Being $100 PS4 and not as powerful. But once the Pro was out there and they released the One X 500, I don't think they had any problems. I think they sold plenty of One X's, and Microsoft didn't mind getting a more expensive console. But that was more of a, we screwed up. Here's a great console now to make up for it. And man, they just, with that ideal in mind, they rolled that baby right into this generation with this Series X and Series X.
Yeah, definitely.
Almost say more so with the Series S to get that much power and performance out of a box that small and be able to sell it at $300. And I don't think they're losing money on it either. I think it's break even. I think that's what they're paying to have that thing produced. And I think 500 is probably what they're paying to have the Series X produced. I don't see them. The other people are saying they're losing money on them, but I don't think they are.
It's a good gambit.
But I'm telling you right now, Microsoft never lost a penny on the Xbox 360. Okay, other than the money they lost because of the red ring of death, because they knew they had to pay for all that shipping and turnaround time and people dedicated to repairing those and getting new boards and 360s. So they lost money there, but they ended up making it all back because they just kept selling consoles and they did so good. I mean, selling 80 plus million of them. And Sony never lost a penny on the PS3. I don't know why people think that. When they debuted that 600 one, that was for the bigger hard drive unit. They actually had a $500 one at the same time that most people were buying, day one, not the 600 one. And it wasn't long. They cut the price, and they were always they were only about 5 million. I think at the most they were ever behind was 10 million in sales. And that was with the 360 having a whole year jump on them. And it didn't take long till they closed that gap. And like I said, for most of the generation, the PS3 was only, like I said, 5-6 million behind. And then at the end, they actually overtook them and so-called winning the generation. Now, throughout the generation, Microsoft more games and more people were always playing the 360. It was the dominant console that generation, far and away, regardless. Sony selling a few more PS3s in places like Sri Lanka, which who cares how many PS3s bought in Sri Lanka? It's just silliness. Sales didn't always mean as much. But going into this generation, people just, at least on the internet, act like that was the be all end all, and your console didn't sell as much. It was Microsoft. Yeah, they wanted to sell a lot, but they learned pretty quick. You know what? We're getting stomped 2-1, but yet money is rolling in. Xbox gamers were buying games, playing games, spending money on DLC and in-game purchases constantly. So they were making a crap money, and so yeah, at some point they realized
really where the money is.
Yeah, they realized they were fine. And that's why they knew it was a good idea to come out with the 1X, that they didn't have to sell X amount of million of them, that their hardcore were going to buy those up. And then after that, it didn't matter. They'd sold enough ones and they had the 1S out. And they ended up, 60 million, I think is where they set right now. Sony's at 110, 115 million. I keep hearing some people say 120, but I don't think they actually hit the 120 yet. They might have. I don't know. I don't check that kind of stuff very often. I just hear what other people say. But man, a $60 million console or 60 million sold, that's humongous. Only Sony's done that in the past. And Nintendo's only done it with the Wii and their Game Boys to beat that mark. Oh, hey, we got Xbox 448 join us. Thank you.
Hello.
Hey, you there, bro? But anyway, yeah, I see his little avatar thing. So that's pretty cool.
All right, I should.
Yeah, you're here, man.
Yo, what's going on, brother? What's up, Mojo? What is going on, Grey Wolf? You guys were keeping me company while I was working on graphics for tomorrow's podcast. Yeah.
Cool.
Mojo, yeah, I came across your post on Twitter, and I was like, yo, let me see what Mojo's talking about real quick, man. I know you for a long time in the community on Twitter, and next podcast definitely seen you in the chat quite often. So yeah. What's up? What do you want to talk about, bro?
Let's talk about that show next Wednesday. What do you think, other than getting the price and the release date and pre-orders? What kind of, you think they're going to have some new games that we haven't seen before?
That's a good question. I mean, that's pretty much why I'm going to tune in. Is whenever there's a new show that is announced or whatnot, you always want to see new games, new gameplay, stuff like that. You see what was it, Corey Balrog? He started tweeting out some weird stuff about revenge being served cold, and like he's doing some things now that people are like, yo, are they gonna tease the next God of War? I'm excited. I'm excited to see exactly what they're gonna do.
I think they're going to tease a patched God of War that'll be 4K 60 on the PS5. I think that's what they're going to do. But I don't know for sure. I just, sometimes I'm a really old gamer. I mean, I date back to Pong, when I was like in my teens.
My first game that I really like fell in love with was Pitfall on Atari. Absolutely, got addicted to Pitfall, man. I was a little youngin' at the time too.
Yeah.
All these different generations and console launches and stuff and things I've just seen. Sometimes I actually get things right when I tell people stuff, and not always, but sometimes, I don't say history repeats itself, because it don't always. That's a silly thing, because different companies come along and companies try different things, and Microsoft certainly has done some different things moving into this new generation, and it was very much needed.
Oh, well, it's good to hear what they call an OG gamer say that, because there is a group out there that I call the dinosaurs when it comes to gaming. Like, I have 3 kids at home. I see how they game. One of the kids, like, he constantly has his phone, and I asked him one day, I was like, what would you think about, like, playing Xbox games on your phone? And his eyes just like lit up. He's used to the smaller screen. That's what he likes. My kids really take advantage of Game Pass as well. Game Pass is great. They do play a lot of the free to play games, like the Roblox and the Fortnite and stuff, because I realize this, it brings a lot of the kids together, because they don't have to worry about asking their parents if they can buy this game for them or anything like that. And right across the board, if you have the system, like if your friends have the system, you can play that game with them. So they do play a lot of free to play. But when it comes to like subscription services and stuff, those dinosaurs out there, man, they are full force trying to reject any of that evolution that's going on in the gaming industry right now. And I've always kind of like, I've embraced change. I do see kind of like the long-term negative side effects that could potentially happen, down the road, in terms of, not physically owning your games and, servers getting shut off. But so far, when it comes to like Microsoft and Xbox, I mean, we saw how long they had like the Halo 2 servers up for people who loved Halo 2. It wasn't really until the Master Chief Collection was like, out there a lot, that they decided that, they were gonna kind of cut those servers or whatnot. And I've just seen that Microsoft Xbox, they do go against that grain of what a lot of people think could potentially happen with this like evolution in the game industry. I'm all about that.
Yeah, I've seen that same thing. And I went all digital with Xbox, and it didn't happen on purpose. I was I have a huge movie collection. It's physical, but man, I don't know what happened, but they give you those free games, and then they had a couple of sales here and there, and I bought some older stuff. And that once they announced back Pat, and I got all my 360 games that I already own, put on there, and then I bought a bunch more, and then I just never looked back. And but like my kids, they were raised on consoles with, PS2, PS3, even a little bit of into the PS1. I made sure they had a Super Nintendo and a Genesis back in the day, and yeah, they're both PC Master Race all the way. They both.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm dealing with that with my wife now. Like she's gone over to the PC. playing Fortnite on PC, streaming it, and all that good stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you'll be back. You'll be back when Halo comes out. Because that was a game me and her played a lot together.
I'm hardcore console, and it's not because I don't realize that games play better on PCs and things. I get that they're way more powerful and all that, but I just at some point in my 30s, maybe even into my 40s, I had kids at home. I was a single parent, and messing with the PC and getting things working and running. And consoles always plug and play. And here's the games. It was just great. Yeah. It just made sense, and I just. I don't like sitting at a desk, to be honest, and I'm not putting a computer in my living room beside my big ass television, and I just don't do it.
You don't want to put that tower? You don't want to put that tower right next to your TV? I mean,
no. No, and everybody, Xbox is like, no, it's the Series X is not like a computer. Okay, it's not that big. It's much smaller than people think. It'll actually the cubes under that I've got my TV sitting on.
You know, it looks big. It looks like it takes up a lot of mass, the Series X. But then when you look at in terms of like, because, you know, Mojo, I know you're on Twitter and stuff, and you've seen people comparing the size because, you know, the disk drive opening is pretty much a universal size. And when you start looking at like the comparison, yeah, the Series X takes up a lot of space, but the base of the PS5 is just about as wide as the Series X. And then you look at how tall it is. If you stand it upright, if you look at how tall it is huge, man.
Yeah,
it is
going under anybody's television. It's just not. They're going to set it beside them.
Dude, and then if you sit it down on its side, it's like extra wide. You know, it's a big thing, man. And it's funny that some people they complain about the Series X because, you know, granted, when you first look at it, it looks big. Because you know, it's wide and tall, you know, but you put it side by side with the PS5 and that thing's taller. The base when you stand it up is just as wide as the Series X, and I'm like, oh, how much bigger do you think one is over the other? I'm like, I would go PS5 is a big boy. That's a big boy.
Yeah, and I get why they done it because it's a cooling thing. You got to have that much space inside of it with air. That's why the OG Xbox One was so big and just a big. Everybody called it the VCR box and all that. But Microsoft was not going to let the 360 Red Ring of Death happen again. They made sure, and that thing's built like a tank. By the way, I still have one hooked up to a television. Actually, it's in my living room with my big TV. I've got the One X hooked up to my 4K set.
Mm-hmm.
With a PS4 Pro, but my OG Xbox One, not an S, is still hooked up in the living room, and I use it to watch movies on, and I don't game too much on it anymore, but
same here.
It's a beast. I think it will outlive all the PS4s because they're going to run hot. That's why eventually PS4s are going to start dying out.
Yeah, I mean, PS4, you know, when it comes to the fan, you always hear the fan kick on with the PS4. I've heard it. Like, my favorite game to play when I had the PS4 was God of War 3 remastered. That was my favorite game on my PS4. And even on a remaster, those fans were kicking in. So, you know, with PS4, you know, they are eventually going to kind of like fizzle out or whatnot. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the PS5 because they're handling cooling in such a different way, you know, like if you saw kind of like their breakdown and usually like as the chip gets hot, the fan kicks in, but they're going by a different kind of like algorithm for the fan to kick in or whatnot. So it's going to be interesting. I wonder how many fans are in there. I hope with the show that's coming in, the way Xbox kind of did kind of like their exploding Series X to show what was inside, and you know, they did that with the Series S. I hope they do that with the PlayStation 5 because even though like I never went to school for tech, hardware, or anything like that, being on YouTube for so long and being like in the gaming community and talking to developers, you pick up a couple things. So I feel like if they that thing breaks open, I can kind of look inside and see, like, you know, some of the components and what's going on in there. But
have to.
in terms of what Grey Wolf said, Grey Wolf, in terms of the price, I don't think Sony. If I were running PlayStation, I would not go over $500 with the PS5, and I think they were planning on doing that. I think they were planning on doing that, but after seeing kind of like you know, because of the leaks, and it kind of forced Xbox's hand to kind of throw everything out there. Seeing that the Series X is $500, they got to at least match that price when it comes to and I'm talking about the one with the disc tray, the PS5 with the disc tray. I think the highest price point they can go is 500.
Yeah, I think they will show off the internals, because if they don't, they know somebody else will. And I don't think you want to wait until after this thing hits the market and you have Digital Foundry tearing one apart and going, oh, look, this is crap.
Mojo,
behind it and show people this thing's not going to overheat.
Mojo, this has been such a crazy year, and you know what? I thank God. I thank God that, you know, because we've been dealing with this whole Cold War when it comes to pricing for these systems. You know, Xbox is waiting for PlayStation, PlayStation's waiting for Xbox. All the while, all the gamers and consumers out there are waiting for both of them. Like, yo, somebody do something. And you know, the thing that I'm thankful for is a lot of gamers out there on social media, they wish E3 was back, man. Can you imagine if there was an E3 this year? We would have had so much more of this information in June. You know, and they could have been focusing on deeper dives when it comes to games that are coming up for the system, like after June going into like November and the launch. They could have been focusing more on the games, but here we are in September. We're going to be in mid-September, and we're getting excited to finally get the price reveal of the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, that's crazy. This close to launch, just now. I mean, it's going to be less than 1 month before they release. They're announcing the price and release date and things. That's why I think when before that show ends, they're gonna go live with their pre-orders. They can at least jump Microsoft by 6 days of pre-orders, and a lot of people don't realize that that's a lot of sales if you go pre-order first.
Mojo,
that's why I was shocked when Microsoft picked the 22nd. I'm like, whoa, they've opened the door for PlayStation to get their pre-orders in first.
I that was really interesting when you said that, because, you know, I haven't heard any other YouTubers say anything like that, like in terms of jumping into the pre-orders. And when you first said that, like in my mind, I was like, nah. But then you made sense with it, though, because those pre-orders, that's money right there. And the first company to get their pre-orders out there, that's almost like the first no-brainer. Okay, I'm ordering that. And then, you know, when the next system, in this case, for what you're saying, you know, Xbox, those pre-orders go up, it's like, well, I already invested in this one. This one came out first. I hit the button and I'm there. And you got people like not necessarily like, oh, okay, I'm gonna invest on that second one. The only thing I think Xbox and Microsoft were geniuses with coming out with the Series S, especially because it's $300. That has had so many people, even like diehard PlayStation people, saying when the price was announced, they're like, you know what? I can pick up a PS5 and the Series S for that price. And all of a sudden, gamers were planning on getting, you know, their PS5, their preferred platform. And all of a sudden, they're thinking about getting an Xbox where they had no plans to before that, until they said $299. So they were geniuses for that.
That was smart,
Yeah,
especially around Christmas time and with parents, you know, and well, just with COVID in general, people don't have much money. So, you know, hey, why not get them into gaming? Even if you don't plan on buying a PS5, why not, you know, get the Series S? Yeah, it's download only, but if you have the Game Pass with the Series S, especially with the Microsoft pricing, was it $24.99 a month? You can own the system, and as long as you have Game Pass for 2 years, it's yours basically. It's an incredible deal. So you're right; they're total geniuses when it came to that.
Yeah, leading up to it, I didn't think. I always thought 300 was going to what they were going to sell it for, but I didn't realize how much they were jamming in that little box.
Yeah,
When they started talking 1440p and up to 120 frames per second, I was like, "Holy shit!" For 300, that. Then I started realizing that is a great deal.
Mhm.
Prior to that, I was like, "Oh, well, I'm Series X, 500, and the S, yeah, 300, whatever." I didn't understand. I didn't truly understand the need for the Series S until I looked at its specs and then watched some games play on it, and because I didn't need to see games.
Dude, I saw screenshots. Of like Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla running on the Series S. And you know me, man. You know, I'm on YouTube, so I pay attention to the smallest detail because I feel like people who subscribe to my channel, they deserve, you know, me kind of really diving in there and dude, the fidelity of the screenshots, like the trees that I saw, the rocks on the ground, the grass around the path that, you know, the main character was on. I was like, wow, this is really amazing. And Mojo, great. You got to think, like, these developers, they're coming up with new ways to upscale as well. So even though the Series S says 1440p, right, in terms of native resolution, all these new ways to upscale the game, I think a lot of people are going to be really surprised with how games perform and how they look running on the Series S, even though it's not a technically a 4K machine. The way that they're going to upscale those games, depending on what, you know, what techniques they use, I think people are going to be really surprised, man.
I've heard them say that the upscaler in the both consoles, the X and the S, are better than what's in the current Xbox One and the Xbox One S. Those were already pretty good. Even the OG Xbox One, when the game was 900p, I don't know if the box was, well, I guess with the OG one it wasn't, but with the series, with the Xbox One S, it did upscale to 4K because I bought originally a 1S and used it for like a year before the X came out, and I traded that in on my X. But upscaling it to my 4K TV, it always stuff looked great. And even on
you did Moochonomics. That's right, bro. I remember when Mooch was like, yeah, no, buy a 1S when it comes out, use it for the time that you have it, and then trade it in when the X is there, and you're gonna get your money's worth for the S, and you're gonna get a substantial kind of like trade-in value when it comes to the X. I remember the Moochonomics, bro.
Oh yeah, I jumped all over that because I needed at the time I needed a 4K Blu-ray player anyway, and that's what the 1S was. So not only did I get to play games, not only did I was been able to watch movies in 4K. It was perfect. But I've heard, and actually that Ronald dude, the Wild Beard, he said that the upscaler in that S is really good, and people are gonna be shocked at how good these games look.
And I know they're using AI or something. It sounds incredible.
Machine learning, and that's another thing. Like for people who are like, yo, they're like, there's not going to be enough like system memory, and the Series S is going to be a bottleneck. There's all new like tools that developers will be able to use. Variable rate shading, VRS, is something that will really kind of tone down the demand when it comes to the hardware, but the games are still going to look more. What's up, brother?
You're botting Grey Wolf.
The demand. Oh yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
Huh?
Oh,
Hang on,
the games are.
my phone just
Hold on, let me-
started playing. That was pretty weird.
It could be StreamYard's just messing up for some reason.
Yeah, that was me. I was gonna text out that you were on the show, and so I brought it up on my phone to grab the link, and it. But when I did that, it started playing, and then I kept hitting pause, and then it just kept playing.
Okay.
It was weird.
Oh, okay.
I was like, who is that squeaky person talking? But it was me, so that makes sense.
I
but
shut it
yeah.
off now.
But in terms of like people trying to downplay the Series S, and certain people saying it's going to be a bottleneck, it's going to hold the next generation back. Like there's so many techniques that are coming with the new systems for the developers. And even Grey Wolf was talking about the machine learning, which as the machines got basically artificial intelligence, it learned how to use what was it, the Gears 5 HDR,
Yeah.
and throw it into Halo 5. And Halo 5 was never coded with high dynamic range color in any of the code for that game, and it was able to put HDR in on that through machine learning. So I think people need to calm down. Like, I understand that this is definitely positive news for Xbox in terms of the price point and what I feel we're going to see in terms of performance for a $300 next gen system. But calm down with the whole kind of like doom and gloom here, because there's a lot of tools that the developers are going to be able to use.
Yeah, if you want an example of something that uses that, it's actually, believe it or not, the Switch. The Switch has two profiles. It has the 1080p, when it's docked, and when you take it off, it downgrades to 720.
Mhm.
And I think it's along the same lines with the S, where people are forgetting it's not true K. It's going to be 1440p at most. It might even go down to. It might even use adaptive resolution. So that's another trick that they can use with the S. And they don't need as much memory when it downscales, like you said, with the variable rate. Really, that 16. I mean, honestly, 12 gigs is more than enough. It really is. I mean, the Xbox One X has 12 gigs, and that looks incredible. So you're right. I think people are just making mountains out of molehills.
Yeah, and just like the PS5, like the Xbox will be able to pull assets straight out of the SSD, not even put it into the system memory, and put it automatically into the game. Like they can do that same thing that the PS5 does as well. So that's another thing where you don't necessarily need the system memory there, because it's just pulling the assets straight out of the SSD and throwing it right into the game. So you put all that stuff together, and you got a $300 box that has all of that utility in it. I mean, how can anybody like sneer at that? I couldn't believe people were really trying hard to downplay that, and I'm like, yo, you guys are not looking smart right now by saying all of this because of that box.
The HDR thing, Sony kind of started that in a way, because they claimed HDR on the PS4 original box and the Slim, and those didn't have the right HDMI out to even be doing that. They could not do real HDR, so they were doing fake HDR, but it looked pretty good. Microsoft was like, "Oh crap!" Or One X is powerful enough to do HDR, but you know what? We can do the fake HDR stuff too, and we can put it on any game, and they did. It was great. I can't wait to play some OG Xbox games with HDR turned on and see all that color in some of them, and have it really pop on the screen.
Yeah, dude. What they showed Fusion Frenzy, when they showed the OG Fusion Frenzy for the first time with HDR and all that, I was just like, wow, because I used to play that with my friends a lot. Like, we used to get very competitive when it came to Fusion Frenzy. I know that sounds weird to say, but yeah, we were a weird group of people. Like, we used to compete in that game a lot. Yeah.
I just hope it doesn't take it's not just a game by game thing. I hope they apply it across the board. I'd like to see some of those like HCA Neo Geo games get HDR. I actually play a lot of those because I'm a pretty hardcore retro guy, and I'm a hardcore Neo Geo junkie. I buy almost everything Neo Geo. I throw away so much money on that stuff. It's crazy.
Dude, I remember when Neo Geo was like the dream for me and my friends growing up. Like we had other systems at the time. Even my friend Mark had a TurboGrafx 16, and I was jealous of that. But Neo Geo was like the end all be all. It was like the most expensive system. It was like when you went to the arcade, because me and my friends went to the arcade at that point in time, the Neo Geo system, you would just look at that and be like, wow, I can play those games at home with the Neo Geo, but it was just way too expensive. My parents were not having it. There was no way I was getting one of those, yo.
Yeah, I had a PC that I bought from a guy that I was stationed down in Panama at the time, and he just came from Japan to Panama, and he realized he wasn't going to be able to get games down there, and so he sold it. And I used to do crazy stuff, and I would give air crews money who were going to be flying to Japan, sometimes not for like a month later, 2 months, but they were going to head back to the States, and then eventually they'd be over in Japan. I'd slip them $100, sometimes $200 in a list of games to pick up for me, and it might be 4 months later if I could get them back. And my wife at the time, which is divorced now, she would be so mad. What do you mean you gave some guy $200 to buy you games in Japan? I couldn't get them anywhere else. It was just, they didn't sell them in Panama on the base. They didn't sell PC Engine games. I don't think they even carried TurboGrafx 16 games down there in the base exchange. They carried Genesis and Super Nintendo, and I had both of those, and that was great. But I also had that PC Engine that I love because I'm a Shump junkie, not a bullet hell junkie, but the original, all those Shumps, stuff like Thunder Force and side-scrolling ones. I like the vertical too, but it seemed like that wasted too much television screen on an OG CRT, which I've learned that's not. People used to turn CRTs up on their side to play play those kind of games.
Tank mode.
Yeah, tank mode they call it. I was never lucky enough in the day to have an actual television that I could do that to. Mine were always designed that you couldn't set them on their side.
If I ever did that growing up, I swear my mom would ground me. She saw me take my TV, put it on its side, I'd be grounded. Like the TV would be out of the room, and that'd be it. But my older brother, he had the Genesis. I had the Super Nintendo. He had the Genesis. He had the Sega CD and the 32X all put together. He used to sit right in front of his huge TV. He had like like big screen television. He had like he was a techie guy, like into sound and stuff. He had a reel to reel,
I always wanted a reel to reel, but I've not had one. I did have a Genesis and a Sega CD, but I never bought the 32X. By then, because I felt burnt by the Sega CD. As much as I loved it, I just felt like they wasn't doing enough with it. We were getting these great soundtracks, but a lot of times it'd be the same game that was on a Genesis cartridge. And sometimes they did a little more, but not enough for me to spend that much money on it. And I was seeing what the Japanese were getting with the PC Engine and their little CD attachment. They were getting so much more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing. My brother again, and my brother, he used to let me use his Genesis, but it was never a guarantee. Like I would ask him. There was a lot of no's and a lot of yes, but whenever, because I also have an older sister, whenever she went to Blockbuster at the time, I would go with her, and I would always pick up Sonic CD. My brother didn't have Sonic CD for Sega CD, but I would always pick it up, and I would come home and I'd be like, my brother's name was Luke, and I'm like, yo, Luke, look what I got. We gotta play it. But what I really meant was, I gotta play it. If you want to, that's cool. But let me use the Genesis, the Sega CD, and that was my game though. Sonic CD was absolutely amazing.
My kids, because my oldest tended to hog the consoles or later the computer. So the younger one, I just made sure he always had every Game Boy because he was always standing beside his brother watching him play, and I'm like, oh, perfect. You got a Game Boy in your hand, you can be playing stuff. And then, yeah, that always seemed to work out really well. Until this day, I even bought him a Switch, even though he was already an adult. I was like, the last chance I can get you the last Game Boy, and here you go on the Switch. And he just laughed. But he has it. We should kind of share it. I've got a dock in here. So I bought an extra dock so I can go grab his Switch and put it on my dock. I've got to move it.
Nice, brother. Yeah, it's funny. The twins, they have Switches as well. They have the Switch Lite, and they don't play them a lot. It's really weird. They don't really touch it. Like I said, one of the twins, and they're going to be 13 in October. They're so 12 years old, going on 13. One of them is constantly on his phone. The other one's constantly on Xbox. And then when I say enough is enough on those, then they'll be like, "Well, can I have my Switch?"
Yeah. He don't play a lot on the Switch. I've noticed he don't have very many games. He buys most of his stuff for the computer, but every once in a while he'll buy a Switch game. And we bought the physical version of Zelda with the kind of little big giant box and a bunch of the little accessory things for it when we got the system. But everything else he's basically bought, and he just downloads and put a rule of the highest, whatever was the most memory SD card you can put in it, and he's been fine with that. But he plays the DS or 2DS more than anything now.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll get in the car and that's what he's got with him now. Like really? He's like, yeah.
Look at really? Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's his jam. That 2DS, because he had the 3DSs before him, but when they went back and redesigned the 2DS and made it really nice, it's
The cheese wedge. He's got the cheese wedge one.
Well, no, it actually has a clamshell.
Clamshell. All right.
That came out after the cheese wedge thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah.
That one I called it the cheese wedge because when you looked at it on its side, I'm like,
yeah, that angle that was not very good. But the one they got out now, they're like, yeah, that 3D stuff. Nobody ever used it. They kept the slider, so the 3D was off. Nintendo finally just gave up and said, let's put out a 2DS.
Dude, you turn it on after a while, man. It hurts your eyes. Like my eyes sore. I'm like, I can't look at it no more. You start seeing double. I'm good.
He had all those. He had actually, I don't think he ever had the original game. I think I started him with the color. I think later he ended up with an original Game Boy at some point, but I think he'd already been on the color. And once the Game Boy Advance, from there on out, he just, especially the black clamshell one, he just loved it.
Nice. I had an original Game Boy. There was a Ren and Stimpy Christmas game that would always be in my original Game Boy. And it's funny, I told the twins, I'm like, yeah, no, I had a Game Boy. I'm like, the original green screen. And they looked at me, green screen. I'm like, yeah, like it was light green and dark green for the things that were moving around and stuff like that. It was a green screen. They're like, ew, you don't understand. I did have the Sega Game Gear though as well, and I love my Game Gear.
I had a Game Gear too, but man, that having to set and play by a plug-in was so weird. I just couldn't afford batteries all the time.
Yeah, I think went through batteries like it was nothing, man.
Yeah. It's funny. My wife has a Game Gear. I have a Game Gear, and they both died at the same time. That the transistors in the screen just passed on at the exact same time. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I love Game Gear though. I was also a fan of the Lynx. I don't know if you had the Atari Lynx, but my Lynx is still going strong. That was an amazing system too.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I didn't get the Lynx. I do remember it, and I remember the commercials and everything like that. But with Game Gear. I was it was Mortal Kombat, Echo the Dolphin,
Yep.
and Sonic the Hedgehog. That was my trifecta. Then anywhere like me and my family went, whether it was aunts and uncles' houses, family get-togethers, I always had to have my Game Gear and those 3 games with me, and I was good. I was good for the entire night.
Oh yeah.
My jam was Shinobi.
Oh, night.
By the time I was done with the Game Gear, I just didn't want portables anymore for some reason. But eventually, I was buying them for my youngest one, and that was pretty cool. But I'm not big on handhelds, so I stopped with the. I had an original Game Boy, and I had that.
Wow. It seems like this guy Nick, I'm just going off the first thing I see in the chat. You might have a troll following your channel, man. I'm not sure. Not sure.
It's possible. There was a guy on we ended up having to go Wednesday night because couldn't do the afternoon when we tried to do the afternoon at 2:00 on Wednesdays, but he wasn't available until like this time. So we went much later, and there was some guy in chat that was. Well, that's fine. That means we're doing good.
Yeah. That means you're going somewhere, bro. That's why I pointed it out. So thank you, brother Nick, for letting me know that Mojo is onto something that is definitely going to grow. So I appreciate that. I'm pretty sure he does too, and I'm pretty sure Grey Wolf appreciates that comment as well.
I do. Absolutely.
Dude, it's funny. So many people out on social media, they take gaming so seriously. Like, I know with us on this panel, it's a part of our life. People say it's a hobby. It's a little bit more than that. But when it comes to arguing over plastic is when it gets ridiculous, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, totally. Because they're all great in their own way. And it doesn't matter how you game. Doesn't matter if you're a PC gamer, a console gamer, which console you pick. A gamer is a gamer, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Are you having fun? Yes. There you go.
Yeah, it's something I try to tell the kids because, like, one of the kids, he's a rager. So, like, when he's playing a game, he's playing like Fortnite or something. Like, he'll get mad. He'll be like, "Oh, it's the lag," and I'm like, "Dude, you're hardwired. There is no lag." It's like, well, yeah. Then he's like, "Oh, my teammate and stuff." I'm like, "Sir, it doesn't sound like you're having fun. If you're not having fun, pick a different game."
Right.
Because it is called a game at the end of the day. It's a game. Like, you're supposed to have fun. If you're not having fun and you're just getting upset, and if you're only happy when you're winning, you know what? Pick a different game.
Yeah, I stopped playing the bullet hell games because at some point they stopped being fun to me.
Which games?
Any of the bullet hell shumps. I just, the ones that with the pink bullets, and they'd be thousands of them on screen at once, and they're really great. But by that time, I was already getting older, and my reflexes just didn't seem to be as good or something. I don't know, but it would get frustrating, and I'm like, no, I'll play the old school shumps, and I'm fine with that.
I prefer the cool shmups too. And although the one bullet hell shooter that I did really like was Ikaruga for Dreamcast, GameCube. It's going to be out on the Switch, the PS4. I think it's out on the Xbox. So that's like the one game because it's a treasure shooter. I love treasure shooters. That's the one exception I do have to say for bullet hell. That one I can't stop playing.
The clan I'm in Destiny 2, because my oldest son, he's 17, and he is a Destiny 2 fanatic, and I like to joke around. I'm like, I have no idea where he got it from, so I'm in his clan, and of course there's a lot of younger kids in there and stuff, and they start getting angry when we're doing raids and stuff, and that's one thing they noticed about me. I never get mad. Like they can tell that whenever I talk, they can hear a smile on my face, and I'm like, well, it's a game. It's a game. Either we're gonna pass it now, or we're not, and we're gonna pass it another day or something like that. I'm not gonna get mad about all that.
Right.
Otherwise, it's defeating the purpose of playing a game.
Yeah.
But
Although the 360 actually had some really great games that were only released in Japan that never gets talked about that were shumps. They were done by a company called Cave, and they released a couple for the 360 in the US, but they had a bunch more that were Japanese only. And I ended up buying a I had an Xbox 360 modded, but I also bought a Japanese 360 just to play those because I didn't after I had that one modded, I got paranoid about I can't play online, because I don't want Microsoft to wipe my account or fry my machine, which I've heard about people them doing to me. But so I just bought a Japanese one and I didn't care because it was like, yeah, I love those games. And
Cave makes incredible shmups. Cave is great. I love their games.
in terms of getting like international games or games from Japan, the only system I really did that with was the Dreamcast. And the funny thing was, like, I don't know how to read Japanese or anything like that, but I got like Rival Schools. I love that fighting game.
That's a good one, yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing though. Like I literally had to figure it out through button presses and button combinations to try to get things. Everything was in Japanese, and I couldn't stop playing it though. I could not stop playing it. And Dreamcast, they had this big issue where basically I was getting games at a local flea market, and of course they were bootleg games. But that was one of Dreamcast's biggest issues was how easy it was to bootleg Dreamcast games. I think that was one of the big reasons why Dreamcast didn't make the money for Sega that Sega was hoping it did, and eventually, we all know what happened when it came to Sega. They went strictly software publishing, but like I would get Japanese games like Rival Schools at the flea market, and that was the big one. That was the one that I played the most. But they were so dirt cheap at the flea market. I was buying like 15, 20 at a time, trying them all out. Like, it was crazy. Dreamcast is still my favorite console to this day. It's still my absolute favorite console.
It's an amazing one. And I was so sad because Dreamcast is actually what won me back to Sega. Now, no offense to Saturn or anything. And I love the Saturn. Don't misunderstand. But they messed up so badly in America with Saturn. And when I looked at the Dreamcast at first, I was like, is this going to be more of the same? And then I actually played Soul Calibur 2. Or Soul Calibur, sorry, not 2, just the first one.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. And I was like, okay, this is the system to own. And I right out bought the system. I was like, yeah, I love the Dreamcast as well. And it just breaks my heart to see it die the way it did. It just, I'm still not over it.
No, I hate it. And a lot of people now, when they look back, they have there's so many people are like, man, I miss the Dreamcast. I miss Sega, coming out with hardware. And when Sega was ready to make a big announcement, everybody's like, oh, are they coming back into console? Like, people want Sega back making consoles again.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate, though.
I miss them too. I never understood why they gave up on the Dreamcast when they did. It was like, well, you're still making games. Why did you have to kill the system? You could have cut production so they're not producing as many, and still had the Dreamcast out there, still produced games. You could have went multi-plat and still produced games for your Dreamcast.
That is true. That is true.
Didn't get that decision. It didn't make sense to me. But they were really messed up at the time because you had Sega Japan making decisions, Sega America making decisions, and they didn't seem to be like that ruling iron fist like Sony in Japan rules with an iron fist. Whatever they say, that's what goes. And even though they had, Sony of the US, Sony of Europe, and Sony of, from wherever, it's always been Sony of Japan makes the ultimate decision. And I like how now they've actually combined everything. It's just one. That one guy runs the whole company now. There's not divisions making decisions. They finally said, yeah, we can't keep having, Sony of Europe making certain things and Sony of the US doing certain things. And I don't know if that was Jim Ryan consolidating power or the whole consolidation thing happened. He just fell into the main
Yeah,
power.
actually, interesting you mentioned about Sony. There is something I am very curious about the PS5. Is it also going to be region free? No region.
Great question.
Yeah,
That
I don't know.
great question.
For the PS4, that was amazing. Same thing with the Switch. There's no region, so I can buy a game anywhere in the world. Whatever it is, it'll just play, and half the time it just knows that it's English, and it just boots right up. And I really want to know. To me, that's one of the big questions about the PS5. Is it the same? If it's not, that's a huge misstep too.
Well, since they did it this generation, I would hope that they just move forward and that's a standard thing now that, there's no region locking. But
Right.
again, you never know though. Like, companies and corporations do some really weird things sometimes. Just look at Xbox and their marketing throughout this entire generation. Some of it was absolutely spot on. Like Halo Wars 2, their marketing for Halo Wars 2 looked great. It should have been on more TVs and stuff like that. I saw a lot of it on YouTube with Atriox like buying a used car and stuff like that, like on point. But then other things like where was their marketing for like Sunset Overdrive, and I didn't see too much for Quantum Break, and
Hey, that goes back to Trey Marison and people. I don't think it was just him. There was some people within Xbox that decided that it didn't make sense to pay for advertising like on U.S. television shows. They just, they cut it way back. I think during The Walking Dead, they had a deal. They had commercials, and then Monday football, they had the big contract. But mostly they were trying to sell Surface Pro stuff.
Yeah, they never really used that for Xbox, and that was one thing. You're like, well, Microsoft and the NFL, they are cozy with each other. They are buddy. So you'll definitely see like Xbox at Monday Night Football, playoff football, stuff like that, and we never saw any of that.
Hey, Skinny, he just joined us. Can you hear us?
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, there. It took me a while. I couldn't see your thing to add you in. You came into the room, but it was covered up because I'm just using a little Surface Pro, which is funny. We're just talking about Microsoft selling these Surface Pros on their NFL commercials.
Cool.
But anyway,
what's up, brother? I get to type your name a lot, but like now I can say it to your ears. Skin, my brother, what is going on, yo?
Hey, how is everybody?
Living the dream, bro. That's what I say.
We certainly are.
I will follow you back, Skint, as soon as I can get back on Twitter here.
Yeah, no problem.
I swear, I think my cell phone's automatically on Twitter. Like I unlock it, it goes right to Twitter. Yep, right to Twitter. Look at that.
Yeah, me too, buddy.
I spent too much time on Twitter, but when I was back working and I was on 12-hour shifts overnight, I even going crazy. Yeah, I was making soda at a Pepsi place, so it's pretty cool to like slide into the back and just whip out the phone and get on Twitter and get into a fight with somebody.
Speaking of, I was only at like 4% battery. I had to plug this sucker in. Oh man. But anyway, I know Mojo would probably ask. We were talking about like, Sony's show and what we're like expecting to see or whatnot. And then in true gamer fashion, Mojo, Grey Wolf, and we just started going into all sorts of gaming. We're talking Atari, Neo Geo, Turbo Graphics, Dreamcast. We went everywhere, dude.
That's kind of what I want with this Saturday night show. I want to talk movies, gaming. anything that happens during the week, leading up to the show, that kind of stuff. I don't want it to be any one specific thing. It can be anything. It's
Nice.
interesting. It happened. Let's talk about it.
That's cool. That's cool. I heard you mention about the Neo Geo. I had no money for that machine.
But you wanted it though, right?
Oh yeah.
I just bought. I spent money on it, but I just bought a super gun. And the wiring, comes the wiring harness, whatever, so I can play like arcade boards. And oh my God, that's a rabbit hole. I don't know what I was thinking when I ordered it, because arcade boards cost a fortune. And although you can still get some sometimes $50-$60, but some go for $2,000-$3,000 depending on the game. So I don't have any right now, but I'll have a super gun. So I'm trying to get use out of it. It's not just a super gun; it also plays Neo Geo games, so I can slap in one of those cartridges that has hundreds of games on it, and play all the Neo stuff. Which I've got Neo Geo on PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, Xbox One, as well as real Neo Geos. I got an AES and I got a consoleized Neo, but this super gun also has a consoleized Neo Geo on it, so you can actually put NES cartridges into it. It's a money sucking rabbit hole to go down, but you know what? If I can find a couple of great 90s to the early 2000s arcade boards, I'll be happy. They don't break the bank on me.
One of my biggest regrets, actually, back when Neo Geo was like, being phased out, and they were coming out with like the PlayStation 1 and all that. One store near me was actually selling the games for $20 each, the actual full brand new game. And I should have picked up, I think one of them was Metal Slug. I should have picked it up, and I did. I just was like, nah, let's stick with the PlayStation and all. It's one of my biggest regrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I collect all the minis now, and I've got the Neo Geo one that looks like a big controller. But it's with a joystick, and I love it. And it's hacked already, so I've got all the CPS 1 and 2 games from Capcom on it. Oh my God, it is so cool to have something like that.
You collect all the minis. So did you get like the PlayStation Mini?
Oh yeah, and you know what? It's not as bad as people think. I ended up ordering like 4 of the little thumb sticks that are full of games. They don't repeat. So if you get the True Blue Minis, they're called. They're just thumbsticks full of PlayStation games, and they're all the US versions and play correct, and they look great on that PlayStation Mini. So it's
I got you. I just think in general, like that era of gaming, because that was kind of like, they were birthing like 3D. And I know there was like quasi 3D games before all that, but to me, like that generation of gaming did not age well.
No, not at all.
It did not. So I was wondering what they were going to put on that thing when we first started hearing hints about it and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a great idea. And I know people out there are like, "Oh, we need a Nintendo 64 Mini," and I'm like,
No.
Hey, do we
We
really?
really don't.
I've got 600 games now for that PlayStation Mini, and there's only about 10 or 12 that I like playing, and they all surprisingly are shumps and a couple of 2D platformers. And there were 2D games that came out on the PlayStation, even though Sony kind of mandated, particularly for the US market, they only wanted 3D games. But they, on a case-by-case basis, let certain devs do 2D games. I think they only did
Case in point.
was letting for the Saturn in Japan anyway, where 2D games were coming out left and right, and they were awesome. But in Sega US did not want any 2D games on the Saturn in the US, and that's part of the reason why didn't go very well because it didn't have really the 3D power that the PlayStation.
Yeah, it really was a major mistake not letting a lot of those Japanese games come to America. I mean, that's what killed the Saturn to me. In terms of overall, just the games that came out for it. I mean, trust me, it's a great system. I got a lot of great stuff, but some of my best games are imports, like Radiant Silvergun, for example. Never came out in the U.S. That was just a sin, among many others. I mean, that's just one example of many.
I will say the only way I will give the Xbot like signature of approval on a mini Nintendo 64 is if they have all those awesome wrestling games.
Oh man, you're speaking my language.
Because like wrestling games have not been the same since we left the N64. I'm talking like
No, they haven't.
WCW, NWO Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, all those games. Like if they have those wrestling games in there, it's like I remember 3 or 4 of them. Then I'm like that's good because that's the only thing I would buy it for. Like I would just be playing those wrestling games. Me and my friends used to spend hours. I remember WrestleMania 2000. Like you could create your own character and stuff. Dude, we all had our own like wrestlers with our own entrances, and of course, like we were using other people's entrances, but we would change like the color and stuff. So I had Kane's entrance, but the flames that came up were green, and like, dude, I had so much fun with that.
That was an amazing game. I miss those too.
Of wrestling games too. The Super Nintendo had all those Japanese wrestling games on it.
Oh yeah,
just a ton of them. People, love that stuff, and so, but they actually paid the money for the corporate sponsors and the bigger games when they got to the N64.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they had a formula there that worked beautiful, and it's a formula that no disc-driven game has been able to duplicate ever since.
That's crazy. You would think, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I don't consider the Switch. Well, those are like SD cards that their games are on. I don't consider those cartridges like back in the day, but some people act like they are. But I don't know. Collectors, I know, my God, they buy those Switch games like crazy.
Oh, I'm one of them. So yeah, that's true. They're just so small and convenient. I don't know. It's just a lot of people are like, oh, they're too small, you lose them. Like, not really. I mean, there's some good cases out there that you can just put all your Switch games in, and works with the Vita too. There's a one from Butterfox on. No, I'm not getting paid to say this, but on Amazon, they have it's like an 80 game Switch games, but it works with the Vita. It works with SD cards. It's an amazing little holder. It's really well padded. It's a hard cover. Anyway, I'm getting kind of off the point, but yeah, I collect Switch games too, and I don't know, just something about it. It's just really cool. And Switch and even the PS4 also get a lot of cool special editions. I mean, granted, it's like a lot of the limited run stuff, but lately Limited Run has been doing open pre-orders for like 4 weeks, so you're not limited to 3,000 copies. You can just buy one whenever you can get to it. I mean, it's still technically limited because once the pre-order is done, it's gone. But it's getting better, and it's just kind of nice to have a whole bunch. Like I just ordered the Shantae, the Shantae collection? Part 1. They reissued the Game Boy one. It's still out for pre-order. They're basically putting all the Shantae games on the Switch, and I think that it's going to come to the PS4 as well, and probably the Xbox, but digitally on the Xbox. But I got the special editions just because I love that series. They just incredible game, in my opinion.
It's cute, but yet can be very challenging at points in time.
Sure.
I've played them. Yeah, definitely. Like, don't let the cuteness fool you, because you will be falling off platforms a lot and stuff
Yes.
like that. Yeah, for real.
But I kind of like it for that. I mean, that's just me. I tend to be a glutton for punishment, especially with Metroidvania type games and similar adventure games. So to me, like Shantae just hits that note for me. But yeah, it is deceptively. It can be deceptively challenging. It looks.
Mhm.
You're right. It looks cute, but never judge a book by its cover.
And then you die like 5 times in a row on a certain kind of like jumping pattern that you just can't get down, and you're like, oh
Yep.
man, what did I do to myself with starting to play this game? But in true gamer
It's kinda
fashion,
how-
you will
Yeah,
not
it's
stop
kinda how-
until you complete it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of how I felt with Hollow Knight too. Hollow Knight, oh man, that makes Shantae look like a walk in the park. Great game, great game, and I love it to death. But oh my god, it's so hard.
Have you played the 2 Ori games?
Yes, also difficult. I haven't beaten the second one yet. I just kind of started it recently. I have a heck of a backlog, but the first Ori game was amazing. I mean, they're both amazing. I'm not knocking the second one at all. I'm just not far enough into it to give a true opinion yet. But the first one was amazing, and I love the fact that it's on the Switch, which blew me away. And not only is it on the Switch, it actually runs at 60 frames a second. Like they actually improved it over the Xbox, which like that just blows my mind. That they
Yeah,
managed that.
yeah, no, that's crazy. Like,
No, I've not completed any of those 2 installments yet, but they are beautiful games. They really are.
Oh yeah.
brother. Well, first off, you gotta beat the first one too. You gotta beat the first one before you
Yeah.
can't get any further into Will o' the Wisps until you beat Blind Forest,
Right.
and
Wow.
then you're allowed to go into Will o' the Wisps, because I look at it as like one complete story, just with a halftime to it.
Yeah.
And when you see the full scope and what they're doing with the kind of like the full story arc, by the time you get to end of Will o' the Wisp, you're just, your jaw is on the ground. You're like, oh my
Oh,
goodness.
really?
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah,
It's-
I have to agree.
I'm going to make that my task.
well,
I'm interested to see what they're doing next, because it's going to be a multi-plat, and that's going to be interesting to see who they get to do the marketing and where they're getting the money from. Are they paying out of their own pocket right now, or do they have some money from
well, their
some?
next project is going to be a multi-plat, right? But I didn't hear that it was actually going to be like Ori. So I feel like their next project,
This could be something totally
yeah.
different.
Whatever it is, I'll play it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're one of the few devs that even before the COVID stuff worked from home. All their different people were working at home when they made those Ori games. So it's kind of amazing they were able to, put all that together and it come out so good.
Well, Moon Studios, that's what they do. They all work from home. Their developers are spread throughout the world. They don't have a headquarters or an office or anything like that. And they work on things and communicate through the internet. They send, each other stuff, and that's how they complete their games. Now, it takes longer for their games to complete because of that. But they were already used to the whole kind of like work from home scenario, and they had everything already. They're good right now. They're like, there's no change in what we do. Like, I always thought that was interesting. I think Moon Studios is like, Xbox should seriously think about acquiring them, talking to them, seeing if they're down to get into first party, because I feel like if you can bring them all together, they did Ori 1 and 2 again, working at home. Can you imagine what they could do if now they're under Microsoft's payroll and they actually come together in one place and work
Wow.
together? Yo, dude, like,
I'd been happy if they could have helped with Halo. Tips
The thing
about
about
home and
Mojo,
the network clean and
Mojo, the thing about Halo, and this is something I don't think a lot of people get. They think that it had something to do with how they were developing on the hardware. That's why the game looked the way it did. That's not why the game looked the way it did. The game looked that way because, see, I'm a part of the Halo community. I've been a part of the Halo community for years. I know what people complain about. If you ever notice, anytime a Halo comes out, it's always scrutinized by the Halo gamers out there. It's never, ever since like after Halo 3. After Halo 3, every single Halo, and even Halo 2 was heavily scrutinized when it came out for the dual wielding and stuff. Oh, they're changing it up so much. The Halo community, you're never going to please everybody. Like that entire community, there's always going to be a section that is complaining about the Halo game. But 343 ended up listening to what I call the old school Halo community. The Halo community that thought that Halo 4 and Halo 5, like the Forerunner structures, they look too busy. There's too much detail in there. You need to calm it down. You need to go back to like Halo 1 and the way that looked. That's what we want. And unfortunately, 343 listened to that crowd without understanding that what they were really saying is we just want Halo 3 over and over and over again. And, you know, that and even at that point, you're never going to please the entire community. But the reason why Halo Infinite looked the way it did was because they were trying to do the Halo 1 look, but bring it up to today's standards. And that's why it looked the way it did.
I'll be honest with you, I thought it looked really nice. It's just me.
Dude, the scenery, the environments, the lighting, you know, minus the pop-in, which when it came to the pop-in, it was running on a PC. PC does not have the velocity architecture. So, like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything about the pop-in except that when it gets to the console with all that new tech in it, it better not have that. But I actually thought the background, like, you know, people were complaining about the pillars that were kind of like in each section, like you see the side of the land, because there was like these hexagonal pillars kind of put together. I'm like, that's the makeup of the Halo.
Yeah. It'll probably be a holiday next year or something.
Yeah, I don't think it will take that long. It could. I think it will, because I think most this game is almost.
Well, if it does, then I mean, there's nothing wrong to me. Nothing wrong with a delayed game. I'd rather it be delayed and be great than be rushed. But honestly, I think it looked good myself. Personally, I mean, I'm not too picky. I think the pop-in will get resolved. That's my prediction. I don't see why it wouldn't. And even if it doesn't, I'm sure they'll find a way to hide it or patch it. Not that that's an excuse, because I kind of find it lazy when developers patch things after the fact. I mean, other than the occasional bug, which does slip through. But still, no doubt that it'll end up being an amazing game. There's no doubt.
Yeah, like they're bringing the one thing I do like that they listen to the community, and I don't think that old school Halo community was talking about this, but they brought back the exploration feel of Halo 1. Like,
yes,
Halo 1 sold me on the original Xbox, seeing how big the world was, and then just looking over at the mountains over there, like, man, I wonder what's over there. And then all of a sudden, you're driving a Warthog over there to see what over there. Like that exploration in the campaign, they brought it back and they magnified that. So I think that's going to be really good for the story. You know, finding different things for Master Chief to use. I think there's going to be like different pieces of upgrades for the armor and stuff as you keep going. One of the reasons why his armor does look so basic right now is I believe that you're going to be able to find add-ons to it as you go through the story. Now, this is just my assumption here. So, like, I didn't get any information or anything about that. But I do know you're going to be able to find things that are beneficial the more you explore in that game. And that's what has me excited. I already know the multiplayer is going to be fire because, in my opinion, Halo 5 had the best multiplayer out of the entire Halo franchise. So they got that. I'm good with that. Now, I do like the exploration that I did see when they showed what they showed with Halo.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fine. And I think, regardless of what people whine and cry about, there's plenty of stuff that's going to come out as the console debuts this November. I think it's going to be a great shot in the arm for them to have Halo next year, and it'll spur on sales. The time frame. Look when God of War came out for the PS4. I mean, that was what, 2+ years into the system, or a little longer, almost 3.
God of War?
Yeah.
God of War?
No, the PS4.
PS4. Yeah, no, God of War on PS4, man. That did come out late into the system.
Yeah, it was a little bit further in there. And, I mean, quite a while before they started dropping their bigger bomb games. And I think Bloodborne was the first really kind of big one. And even that didn't sell that well.
I mean, they launched with Killzone Shadowfall, and that game looked gorgeous. Was absolute trash to play, though. Trust me, I had it. I could not give that game away. I couldn't give it to anybody. Nobody wanted it. Like no, I'm good.
I traded it in at a local, not a GameStop, a local store, and I got lucky with $10.
I would say GameStop would have gotten like 20 cents for that game. Seriously, and that would have been in-store credit. Like it would have been less if you asked for money. But I'm not. Common sense is common sense. It is unprecedented for a system to come out with no first-party representation. Now I know Gears Tactics is coming out, and that's good. That's good. I'm not really a real-time strategy type game person. I'm not really like that, but and the game has been out on PC. Like I remember, like the 360 launch lineup with the Project Gothams and everything. They had it was incredible what they had for exclusive.
Oh yeah.
And
I was blown away by the 360's launch. I really was. I mean, that PGR was amazing.
Dude, there was too many games. There was too many games at once. Like,
really, yeah.
I remember it, man. Shout out to my ex-girlfriend that did buy me that 360, by the way. But she was like, "What games do you want?" And I looked at it. I'm like, "All of them." I mean, you asked me that question, but and we're in unprecedented times because basically, I'm still gonna say that because Gears Tactics it came out on PC. Not only that, it's a very kind of like niche type demographic. People that play real-time strategy on console, unprecedented times. But if Xbox shows what's down the line, if within all this, all of a sudden you start seeing little bits of gameplay from like Hellblade 2. You see little things from Forza Motorsport. You see Everwild kind of like evolve. Show the gamers that there's a future there. Then you're not going to have a problem.
It's just quite nice having these slow little leaks here and there. It's quite nice. It's a nice build-up.
Dude, I think there's people underestimating Hellblade 2. I think that game is going to be like, in terms of the size, like the scope of the game, it's going to be huge because, with Hellblade 1, they had a AA budget and they wanted to make a AAA type presentation game. Now with this one, they have a AAA budget. So what are they going to make with that? And I think they with the trailer they hinted at, because they showed I believe it was I don't want to say it wrong because I don't want to offend anybody, but I think it's the Norse compass. But at the end when they were showing Hellblade, they had the symbology, the circle with like the symbols coming off on each side. That was a compass. So to me, that shows that it's going to be a big scope game. You're going to be traveling places and doing things and like building up your army. Even if it's in Senua's head, she's believing she's building up an army. So like, I can't wait for that.
That game is going to look insane.
Oh my goodness.
With the headphones and Dolby Atmos, yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Can you imagine her leading an army?
Yeah.
I played the first Hellblade. All those voices in her head, she's gonna be like, "Go left, no, go right, no, I don't know. We'll stay here. Let's go." Like it's gonna be all over the place. Yeah.
They've got so many studios now, and there's still what 5 studios they didn't announce what they're making. So you're looking at an amazing year 2, year 3, year 4. And they've got a lot of games through third party and indies that are going to be when the console debuts. There's plenty of stuff to keep right on playing.
You know, Mojo, I gotta thank you for saying year 2, because you know me, I'm on like Crossfire and stuff like that. And when people try to say like there's nothing coming out, well, first off, there is stuff coming out, like the Medium, Scorn, Falconeer. There's games coming out that you'll be able to play on your Series X or Series S. But then when they try to get into the whole no games thing, well, you're not going to have anything until like 2023. And I'm like, dude,
No.
Phil Spencer said like when it comes to cross-gen, they're going to support that between 1 to 2 years. Between 1 to 2 years for the cross-gen, and then, you know, everything else coming out. And I feel like a game like Forza Motorsport, I feel like that game is a lot readier, if that is a word, readier. I don't know. Skint, let me know if that's I think
I
that's
don't
Make
think
it a
so.
word.
okay. But I think it's a lot readier than what people are thinking right now, because I remember back early part of this year, one of the devs was like, "Yeah, no, I'm playing it at home right now," and I'm like, "All right." So I thought it was going to be a launch title for the Series X, and it's not there. I think they are waiting through that cross-gen to release Forza Motorsport as a fully next-gen racing game that's going to be, they're going to add content over time. They're going to use it as a game, as a service. They're going to add car packs. They're going to add tracks. A lot of that stuff is going to be just free add-ons. I think the car packs, certain car packs, you're definitely going to have to pay for because they got to get their money. You know what I'm saying? But I think they're holding Forza Motorsport for that point in time where it's more acceptable to be like, yeah, this is strictly a next-gen game. You know?
Until then, you know, sometime next year, Flight Sim is going to be on the console. And
Oh, well, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Big time.
I'm gonna fly over Skin's house. That's what I'm gonna do.
hey, I was an air traffic controller, so I'm really looking forward to it. Because back in the day, in the late '80s, early '90s, when I actually did play PC games, I was always buying Flight Sim games to see how the air traffic control stuff was, you know, and it was usually not very good. And I've heard in this, it's pretty good, pretty realistic, so that'll be interesting.
Pretty amazing. Pretty sure the X can handle that sort of processing power. It's a big game, man.
I mean, the biggest part of the processing is actually, you know, it's, and Skin, I know you know this, Mojo, and I'm pretty sure Grey Wolf as well. But just to verbally say it, the biggest part of the processing is processing the world, and that's done in the cloud. You know, and that leaves your local system, your local console, your local PC, and all of all that hardware to detail the plane out, detail all sorts of things that like around you, because that map is being taken care of in the cloud.
Right.
I like that, man.
Yeah.
I think that is awesome for them to do that. It's the power of the cloud, bro. It's something we've been waiting for
So
a
it's
while
less
now.
strain on the GPU and CPU, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They
that
went
right?
able-
Everything Crackdown 3's multiplayer was not. I'm just telling you, you know, they relied on a a separate company in the tech. And then when that, I don't know if it wasn't working and they bailed out on them and let Epic buy them and whatever, all that ever happened, but it did happen. But with this, Sobo just, I think they already own a Sobo. They just not made the official announcement. But even if they don't, they have a sweet deal with them. And, you know, they let them make, that's a Microsoft game. It's been on PC forever. And it's like the umpteenth version of it. And it just looks amazing. I can't wait to get it and play.
Yeah, I know. Console players, we got to get that game, man. Like, come on, people. Hopefully, because and I know Skint's seen this. Mojo, you know, you're on Twitter a lot. You've probably seen this. Gray Wolf, I don't know if you're on Twitter a lot. I know you are on Twitter because you and Skint are now following each other, and yes. I will follow you as well.
Thank
you. I forgot where I was going. Oh my goodness. I just had a brain fart.
Something about
I had a point. Something about okay, I'll get back to it. I'll get back to it if I remember.
Taking screenshots and putting them up on Twitter.
Yo, Mojo, you can take this as an exclusive. I don't normally have a brain fart when I'm on a live show, but I did it on your live show.
I can vouch for that.
Hey, nobody's really watching, but you know what? This really helps you coming on, by the way. We appreciate this so much.
I love it.
My podcast, a tiny little podcast, and yeah, it's impressive. Somebody that's had a show on for years that you know.
Yeah. Can I just say that Xbox 448 is a legend?
Oh,
that's coming from me.
Dude, I'm turning red right now. But nah, dude, you know, when it comes down to it, I feel like we're all a community. No matter what happens, like how big or little my channel like is or gets or anything like that, like I'm gonna be the same person no matter what. I saw you on, like you posted on Twitter. I would say when you do go live on shows, I've told people this all the time. Just tag me in your post so this way I know. I'll come in and say hi. If I can hang out for a little while, I will. If you want me to jump on and I'm free, I'll do that. I love hanging out with people and talking games. It's
that's
cool.
I've been on a couple of Boom shows. I've been on the Iron Lords podcast on Sunday. Been on a couple of other ones, but mostly I do Mads' show, which we now do on Fridays, and it's pretty technical though, and it's just about next gen. So when he moved the show from Wednesday to Friday, that's when I kind of like that Wednesday afternoon and just the free flow of talking games, and then it was like, man, I'm retired now. I need stuff to do, and so I'm like, you know what, Xbox vacated Saturday night. That's a nice time slot. I get a lot of views, but it's still, you know, I know people are either gaming themselves or they're out partying. You know, it's COVID. They're not really that many out partying right now. So I'm like, no, I'm going to jump into that Saturday slot and do and I'm like, well, I'm already doing an Xbox show on Wednesday afternoons, and I do both consoles and anything next gen on Friday afternoons. So that's Saturday night. We'll just talk about everything gaming, everything pop culture, movies, you name it. If anybody's a panel member and they want to bring up a topic, I'm down for it. It's as long as there's no vindictive stuff or no anything wrong. I don't go for that. But, you know.
Well, I am very glad that I could free up a spot for you on Saturday. Then, you know,
it's kind of like I'm not gonna lie. That's part of the reason why I decided to do the Saturday night show. I was like, well, wow, next podcast is moved, and it's like, man, there's like a dead spot every Saturday night for the last, I don't know how many years now. I've been watching that show, and I don't miss it. Well, that's not totally true. I sometimes had to work Saturdays, but then I just watched you Sunday morning before I did the Iron Lord show. But then I'd have to go to bed because I worked 12 hours the night before. But at the same time, I always watch. And then you were no longer there on Saturday night. I'm like, crap, I got nothing to watch right now. I don't want to, not in the mood for a movie. And I can't be drinking things because I had the congested heart failure thing. And you can actually have a beer or two when you've had that happen. They don't really doctors won't recommend that, but at the same time, I quit smoking.
Congratulations, brother.
Yeah, congratulations.
Years, and so I'm
That's
scared.
awesome.
Single beer, I would start smoking again immediately. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to drink any beer either right now until I've at least made it. You know, it's been about 2 months I haven't smoked, but I think I need to make it maybe another few months, and then I can have a beer and it'll be okay.
I am in that camp with you when it comes to smoking. I think it's been, I think I'm going on 3 years since I had my last cigarette. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it, man. I did cheat a little, and Mojo, like from your condition, I know you probably can't do this because it was the nicotine, because nicotine bumps up your heart. It treats like it's like caffeine in your body, like it makes your heart pump quicker and stuff. But I switched over to vaping, which is 97% healthier for you than smoking cigarettes. And I gotta say, what happened?
Excuse me. I even went to the patch over, even still getting some nicotine, but I'm off it now, and I'm not doing anything.
Dude, I salute you, brother. I salute you. Like
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was told I had to quit. I went through some medical issues and stuff like that. I was told I had to quit, and for the first 2 weeks, I was smiling at my family, but in my mind, I wanted to choke all of them. Like I was just, I was gritting my teeth. I'm like, and finally I told those snaps. I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. And we went to a vape shop, and I felt better. I'm like, okay, this is where I'm going, and that's where I'm gonna stay. But,
guys, I don't smoke, but I might smoke a cigar when the Series X is released.
He's gonna light up a stogie as he's bringing it home. Yeah, he's gonna do a 18 quote. Like, I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, when this heart failure thing happened and I went into the hospital, they actually had me on the patch, so I knew it was okay. And I didn't smoke anymore. So, to be honest, I never even really noticed that I was so bad off when I was in the hospital that first time. It was bad, and then I got out. And I was getting better, but then my body filled up with fluid, and my legs and feet swelled up really bad, and I ended up back in the hospital. And I was still on the patch at that point in time, and they were putting it on me every night, or whatever, the nurse, you know. And then I went through the 3. I think I did 2 weeks each step, so it was like 6 weeks total. And then I was off of it, and I was fine because I was in the hospital anyway, so it didn't matter. And I was in there for a whole month. They kept me for a month.
Wow.
I still did my podcast, so that's what was great. They let me do my back then on Wednesday with Mads. And I could do my podcast from the hospital room.
You were joking.
But I was in there a month, and because they wanted to operate, they were going to do I've got a leak of the valve, and that's what caused all that fluid, and what caused the whole heart failure thing to begin with. But I was so bad off, they couldn't even go in and do that, and they've still not done the surgery yet. They're talking now it might be next year before they actually cut me open, because I've got a bad blood flow in one leg.
Yeah.
So they're looking to maybe do something to get that improved. Just so
you better watch out. This is starting to sound like one of those futuristic action movies where they're going to go in and they're going to start messing with you. Before you know it, you're going to come out like RoboCop, man. You're going to have eyes are going.
Cardiologist
lose the left arm.
I didn't say this on the internet, but my cardiologist is going to be the one that's cutting me open. She is a babe.
Oh,
I'm like a dirty old man. But
you're like, do it.
Heart surgeon is like an old grumpy, guy, in his 50s. But man, she's really young and smoking hot. So better cut me open.
Mojo.
I can see Mojo getting excited to go see his surgeon. Today's the day I'm going to see her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going. I had a little old lady I had a little, but thank God I had a little old lady because like she was the type of surgeon that she would stay there and do the operation all freaking day if she had to. She wasn't about time as long as it's done right. Like and
Yeah,
that day, yeah.
nice.
So I was blessed to have that. But yo, we got Mojo over. Dude, you better watch out when you come out of the when you come to again. You might start hitting on her, not even know it. Like
Around her, I don't want to come off as
when I came to, dude, I was so loud. I was so loud. I was thinking everybody. I was like, yeah, like they told me that possibly I was gonna lose feeling in the right side of my face because they had to go underneath the nerve and all that good stuff. And when I came to, I felt my face. I'm like, I can feel my face. Like, they said I was wild when I came to. So you better watch out, Mojo. You're gonna start doing one-liners. Like,
Yeah, Mojo's a beast.
Hey, I've got more nicknames than just Mojo. I've lived all over the world. I've lived in Thailand and Panama, and they call me El Toro. You know, El Toro's the bull, but El Toro is the one bull.
That's good.
It wasn't because I was like the one bull. It was like some girl said I was the one. Like, meaning I was the one that knocked her up. And I walked into a club one night and she jumped up and pointed and started calling me El Toro and pointing. And I thought it was cool, like a compliment. And later they're like, no, you dumbass. She was telling people that you knocked her up. Which wasn't true, by the way.
We're getting a little insight into Mojo right now. I like it.
Man, I got stories that I don't tell on the internet because they're just, fun.
Dude, you know what? We got to game more because if you got a lot of stories, I can imagine you in an Xbox Live party, man. You must have somebody said something and it just sparks a story before you know it. Everybody's cracking up. I can see that. I can see you seem like a good person to have in an Xbox Live party, brother.
Definitely.
I agree.
I'll get you and K Mega together and see.
Yeah, I'll jump in one night.
See who can outdo who when it comes to stories of pure entertainment. Because K Mega, oh my goodness, he's crazy in a party. They're crazy. But yeah, I just to bring it back, I am excited to see what PlayStation has. Yo, Skint, they were asking me, and I want to kind of hear what you think. I know you're an Xbox gamer, but you're a gamer in general, so I know you get excited for all these things. I know Mojo and Grey Wolf, they were talking about what we could possibly see, kind of like besides the price and everything. They were hinting at like, are we going to see? Because Corey Balrog was going kind of crazy on Twitter today, being very cryptic about it as well. It's my revenge, and it's going to be served cold. And people are like, "Yo, what the hell are you talking about?" What do you think? Do you think we're going to see any glimpses of games or anything like that in this show?
It's a tough one, really. It really is. At the minute, I think they're playing the cards to their chest on their PlayStation. I really don't know what's going on over their camp, but I couldn't say for sure. I mean, the question going around in my head is the pricing for a PlayStation, really, with the 2 units. That's what's on my mind. How about you?
I hope we see something. When it comes to what Corey is doing out there, I think all they have to do is flash a God of War 2 kind of like teaser at the end. Just put the name up, black screen, and just put the name up, and people are gonna go crazy. But I was telling Mojo here, and I know he can definitely kind of like attest to this. The way that they did the kind of like explosion for the Series X and the Series S, where they showed what was inside, they showed the components.
Yeah.
I want to see something like that with the
Yeah, I
PS5.
do too. Yeah, I want to see the insides now. I want to see more explanation, really.
Yes.
Thing is, has Sony ever done that though? I mean, that's the only thing. I hate to say it like that, but I'm hoping you're right. I hope they do.
It's
But
true.
I feel like they never really
I
did.
don't think they, to be honest, I don't think they will because they have, to be honest, the more inferior unit, haven't they? Really, when you look at it. So if they had something to, more to boast about, then maybe they would do. But I don't think they will now because Microsoft's gone first, and we all know how powerful that unit is. So I don't know, really.
Yeah, and they didn't do it with the PlayStation 4. You know, when that was like the top tier when that came out 7 years ago. So
Yeah.
7 years ago, Digital Foundry and Eurogamer wasn't at the same level they are now. They were around back then, but nobody cared. It wasn't until they
That's
started
right.
mentioning how bad Xbox games supposedly looked that they kind of blew up on the internet and they got real popular.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sony knows that so they're like, man, we better show what's in there. Otherwise, Digital Foundry is going to bust one apart, and they don't want anything to be negative, so they can spin everything to a positive way when they do their show. I don't think it didn't matter that the
we'll see.
is more powerful. I think they've built a really decent console.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be fine. And I think they will show some stuff.
No, I definitely agree with you. Like, and then if you look at what Sony's developers have done now, I know I've gone on record stating that their first party exclusives for the most part this generation didn't really grab me because they all felt the same to me. They all were, they were just third person action adventure, camera over the shoulder. I felt like they needed more diversity. Like where is your great first person shooter? When it came to racing, when Gran Turismo Sport came out, how many years after the system? Like I wanted them to mix it up more when it came to their first party studios. But one thing I cannot deny with the power of that machine and what they did with the Jaguar cores and the GPU at that point in time, they made some gorgeous games on that machine. So I already know when it comes to the PlayStation 5, the one thing that they have under their belt, that whatever games they come out with are gonna look incredible. Graphically, they're gonna look incredible. I just hope that they like diversify more. I hope that they expand. I hope that they focus on more multiplayer games as well. Me being an Xbox gamer, I got kind of spoiled that we get a single player campaign that we can also play co-op, and then there's also a multiplayer element. To me, for being on Xbox as a platform for so long, I kind of expect that in my games now. I expect to have a single player, a co-op, and a multiplayer element. To me, I feel like that's a complete game, and I hope that Sony kind of moving forward focuses on that more as well. Me personally, I'm not trying to say everybody should think that way. I just give Mojo Gray scan. I give you guys a little insight into what I think of when I see PlayStation, and I just hope they diversify more, and I hope they have more focus on multiplayer. Because Sean Layden said they were going to focus more on multiplayer, and then all of a sudden Sean Layden didn't have a job anymore either. So that I was like, oh.
In the past, with the PS1, 2, and then eventually into the PS3, they always seem to have more games than any other system, and so you got some diversity that way. But with the PS4, it just seemed to be those indies in the beginning, and then it was just their bangers. That's all anybody cared about. So I think that's what they really focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we got to get away from that, though.
I think it started in the PS3 era because what got them kind of like more mind share, because a lot of people were dogging the PS3 from the beginning into like the middle of that generation. and I think what got them, games like Heavy Rain, and they started coming out with these exclusives that were single player, that really got into stories, and that kind of that they started gaining mind share back, and of course more people, of course the console was cheaper as well, but more people started buying into the PS3 as well. And I think they kind of looked at that, and Sony's never known for having a great launch lineup when it comes to their systems. Like like recent history will tell you that. But I think what they did was, all right, they had all these games, and then they had The Last of Us 2 at the end of the PS3 generation, and they put all their first party studios back to work, kind of creating that same experience. What made them more popular going from the middle to the end of the PS3? They're like, well, we're gonna ride that horse out. You know what I'm saying? That those single player experiences is what got us, back from all the negativity that was said. So we're just gonna ride that horse out. Now I feel like they can mix it up more. They can do the Horizon, they can do like the God of Wars, but mix it up. Bring some multiplayer in there. Actually talk about the multiplayer, because Uncharted I think has multiplayer. Last of Us has multiplayer, but you never hear Sony talk about that at all. You never hear them, like, they never put anything really into like marketing about it or anything like that. Start talking about it more. Let people know that it's there as well. I think it's something that I would like from them, kind of like moving forward, man. But let's see if they do it or not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
time will tell. Definitely.
10 million has always been that magic number for them. Once they hit about 10 million consoles sold, then they really, you see something drop that's like really first party that's really good, and the real magic number is 20 million. From that point on, they drop their 2 bangers a year throughout the rest of the generation. And it used to be more than 2, but games take so much longer now. You're lucky if you can have two big games in a year. It's just, for even with all the devs they had, it was like, usually 2 big ones and maybe 2 not quite so big, and then the rest of the stuff they were getting from smaller Japanese devs that wasn't even.
Oh, they were getting Japanese titles, man. They were getting like the Gravity Rushes and stuff like that, and it was only going to like the PS4 in terms of if you're looking at Xbox and PlayStation and whatnot. Mojo, one thing I do I do kind of want to touch on, because you said after like 20 million, then it's like 2 per year. But dude, games like Uncharted 4, like Horizon Zero Dawn, especially Uncharted 4, there's so many first party games were supposed to come out earlier than when they did, and they actually got delayed multiple times, and it kind of bunched them all up into this few year span where they were rolling them out one after the other. But those delays led to that jump. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have been spread out more.
Yeah, when they didn't have games, it didn't hurt them so bad because the console was still so new, and they had plenty of the indies, and they were still selling like crazy, so it didn't hurt them. Whereas with Xbox, because they relied on those second party games, and when I say second party, I'm talking about that's when you go to basically a third party company, but instead of letting them do a multi-plat, you buy it, you finance it, it's your game. And Microsoft's always been big on that, but it finally bit them in the ass this current generation.
Hard.
And when they had to get away from that, there was that horrible gap, basically up until, a year ago, and they started dropping stuff more. And they've been fine. And now they got stuff all lined up in the pipeline. So there's going to be plenty of games, regardless of what they say on the internet and Twitter. There will be plenty of games. And I think,
having said that, the Xbox One I thought had a great lineup. Really, it was just after maybe the first 2 years was great, but then they sort of dried out, didn't they? And then the game started feeding through the PlayStation 4.
Well, they
That
had
helped
so
them.
few development houses that they actually owned. You know,
Yeah.
what for Halo and for Gears of War, and then they didn't even own the ones for the Forza. They just had deals with those two companies. Everything else they bought. They went to somebody and said, "Hey, here's X amount of money, make the game," and that had always worked. It worked great on the OG Xbox. It worked great during the 360 years.
Yeah.
This generation rolled
I say-
around, stopped working.
I say wait 1 year, and I guarantee you, 1 year from now, and I'm gonna be very aggressive when I say this. 1 year from now, I bet you they're gonna have a ton of games that are just lined up like Sony had this generation, because they bought all these developers now, like you said, and Double Fine and just a whole bunch.
Thank you
Especially
for saying
Double Fine. That was like shocking.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, dude. I was so
So-
happy when I saw that. When I saw them acquire them, I was like, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I almost guarantee you, in a year, you're going to start seeing all those exclusives that everyone claims that are not there show up, and they're going to be pretty steady.
I think it's going to be even more than kind of like what you said, like what Sony is rolling out. And the reason why I say even more in terms of their first party is because they are determined to keep filling up Game Pass. So you're going to have your AA games mixed in with your big AAA, and these are all going to be first party because each one of their studios has multiple teams working on multiple projects. So you got smaller sections of like say Double Fine, like they're trying to get Psychonauts 2 out, right? Which is going to be a multi-plat, but they have a smaller section working on another game already. So when Psychonauts 2 comes out, then that game's going to get all the attention from the studio, and then they're gonna have break off and have another smaller team building another game. And that's the way that they're going with all the studios. So you're going to see the smaller titles coming out because I don't think Double Fine really does want to make a big AAA game. If they do, they have the funding there, and I believe they have the okay. But I forgot the name of the head of Double Fine, but he's a rebel. He makes what he wants to make. He makes what the studio wants to make, and that's it. He doesn't really take too kindly to people telling him what to make. Real cool guy too, by the way. Real cool guy. But
I feel like his name Tim Schafer, is it?
yes. Oh no.
No.
Skit, help me out, brother. Skit usually helps me out in the chat, man. What's going on? Is it Tim Schafer?
I can't think of the name.
I think that's it. I think that's it.
Yeah, Tim Schafer. That's correct.
Yes.
I looked it up. Yep.
A jolly fat guy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But and I think that's the reason why they acquired all these studios, to bring in the big AAAs and the smaller AAs. I think Matt Booty talked about so many first party exclusives per year is their goal. And after about a year after launch, you're going to start seeing. And another thing is like people people seem to forget. A lot of people bought like a PS4 for the promise of the next Uncharted. Like the next Uncharted trailer came out, and people started like picking up a PS4 again, stuff like that. Microsoft and Xbox need to do the same thing. Like they showed Hellblade, they showed Everwild, they showed a teaser for Avowed, and as the years go on, you show more, you show some gameplay from these games and stuff, and it's gonna get people excited. Like, oh man, I got to get that now. I gotta get the system now. I already know I want to play that game that they just showed me. I gotta get the system now. Like,
yeah,
it's gonna do stuff like that.
They made Sony change the way they're doing things because initially Sony was saying, no, we're going to make fewer games but bigger. And now they went away from that. They realized, oh, shit, Microsoft's going to have a crap ton of games. We got to make more games too. And that's a good thing. I just think you can never have
That's
enough.
an excellent thing. That competition will everybody wins at the end, in my opinion, because it just means better games.
Yeah, Walker in the chat. Yeah, thank you. The reason why I was stumbling over that, I was getting him mixed up with Sweeney from Epic for some reason.
Oh,
And I'm like, yeah, no. But yo, Tim Schafer, if you ever watch any of his interviews, he is just a lovable guy. Like, he is such a cool guy. I would love to hang out with that dude. Like, I think
brutal legend. Another brutal legend.
yes, yes, dude. I can't wait for Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 looks like a game that was like catered just for me. Like, I love like weird, crazy, colorful things. Like, I can't wait for that game. Yeah.
I love the first one. The first one was amazing. And yeah, I'm with you. I can't wait to play the second one.
The second one, like even just the gameplay that we saw from the second one, like it just, first off, it brings back memories from the first one. But it's just so much more. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and it seems like every single level has its own unique art style. Like, you're gonna get like a more polished, more detailed, like when with the kind of like dentist level that they were showing, where you're like running teeth and stuff like that. You saw the shine from the teeth, but then they had this like crazy abstract, colorful world that they showed as well, which is probably another level that you're playing, and it looked completely different except for your character. Like, it looks awesome. Yeah, looks awesome.
They've got so many studios, and I think they're actually going to buy several more. I think they're going to end up at some point, probably they'll hit that 20. I don't necessarily know they're going to have it by the end of 20. That whole 20 and 20, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think they probably already own a Sobo. They just haven't announced it yet. So that'll put them at what, 17 or 16, depending on whether you count that where the one company just buys games elsewhere for them, and that's pretty cool too. So you're going to get some second party games, and that helps. You got to fill out that roster. You can't just not everything has to be a studio that you own.
Yeah, and and that's the thing. Like you said, not everything has to be a studio that you own. But I think Phil Spencer, because going back to the whole second party thing, which Mojo, I completely agree with you on. In this generation, Xbox they definitely weighed heavy. They leaned on the second party deal. Unfortunately, when it came to the community and kind of like the ripple effect from social media and the ripple effect from the gaming news at that point in time, everything was about native resolution. So games like Sunset Overdrive was looked over a lot because it was only 900p, and Quantum Break was, well, what resolution?
It's frowned upon, wasn't it?
Somebody literally sent me a direct message from Twitter, I kid you not, about Quantum Break, because they saw I was playing it, and they're like, is that game any good? Because I heard it's not native 1080p. And I'm like, what does the native resolution have to do with anything here? Like,
seriously.
Before resolution became a thing, that was one of the final things a developer would finalize in their game. Before like the polish and everything like that, but before they were just doing touch-ups to the game and stuff, resolution was not at the very beginning of what they were thinking about and developing in terms of the game. But because of that whole resolution gate and native resolution and stuff, that brought resolution up to a higher tier in terms of developers and what they're thinking when they're developing a game. And it was unfortunate because Sunset Overdrive, it was one co-op mode away from being absolute brilliance. Sunset Overdrive is my game of the generation. Absolutely love the game, the different weapons, how you couldn't just stand there and shoot things. You had to grind. You had to grind on the electric cables. You had to bounce off walls and all sorts of stuff. Like you had to keep moving. I love that aspect, and the sense of humor and punk rock were right there.
Yeah, and I love the
Yeah.
art style as well. The art style was brilliant.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it came out when everybody was talking native resolution, which they shouldn't have been. But
It's funny because that was my Xbox One. That's when I bought it. I got Sunset Overdrive one with the white Xbox.
oh, nice.
And I'm like, even though I got it digitally, I went ahead and bought the actual physical copy too. That's how much I love that game.
Oh, sweet.
Dude, nothing beats the leader of the, quote unquote, the Boy Scout type dude. Was it Bro Cream? Bro Cream, if I remember. He had no arms and no legs.
Yep.
Yeah. That whole story arc is when you fought kind of like the Chinese dragon. Yo, that game was sick. Game's sick. Loved it.
It's funny
man.
too because that was done by Insomniac, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the reason that Insomniac went with Sony is because Microsoft never paid for a sequel to that game, and they wanted to make one. And when Microsoft was talking about shopping around to buy people, they were like, "No, we don't want to be bought." So they went looking elsewhere for studios, and then as soon as Sony said, "Yeah, we'll buy you," and they've made a lot more games for Sony anyway over the years, so it did make more sense to me. And then not only that, Sony offering them Spider-Man. It was, well, what do you want to make? It just made way too much sense.
Yeah, I mean,
and I've been following Insomniac since the PlayStation 1 days. I don't know if I don't even remember Disruptor. That was a good one.
But the thing is, if they had been locked in to a Sunset Overdrive 2, Sony might not have offered to buy them or gave them Spider-Man. They might have turned it over to somebody else, is what I'm getting at. And things have been a little bit different, but hey, it is what it is.
Yo, Mojo, hindsight is always 20/20. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's unfortunate. Two games I really wanted sequels to was Sunset Overdrive and Quantum Break. If you played and beat Quantum Break, that game screams sequel. It screams it, like from the top, from the top.
Man, I completed a great game.
And
I just love the story and how they actually did the whole time crunch thing. It made so much sense and so much. You're right. Now I really want it.
The thing is, when they did the sequel, they would have made the game bigger. There would have been less of the TV show or video clip aspects to it.
I think they would have gotten rid of the TV show. I thought it was interesting, but like while playing through it, that kind of like 20 minutes or so where you're just sitting back watching the show, it was cool the first time, and you don't have to do it the second time. But I can see where some gamers like to stay attached to their game, for the however long that they're playing. I can see some gamers not wanting that 15, 20 minutes or so where you sit back and you watch the other side of the story, even though they didn't have to. I feel like that the game with the show is the full story. That's where you get like every single kind of like corner covered when it comes to that story is both playing and watching. But
Right.
I already knew some people were going to be like, I don't like that. It felt a little awkward at first to me too, until I got to like maybe the second episode of the story. So after the second chapter of the game, you get into the second episode, and that's when you really started seeing that your decisions were like having an effect on the story and the game at the same time. And I thought that was really cool. But yeah, if they made a sequel, I think the show itself would have been completely kind of like dropped.
Well, the graphics are at the point now where they don't need the show. I mean, they can just do all that in game.
In game, nice.
So,
I like that.
And that even gives, leaves it open to like, if you want to change things around while it's happening, crazy stuff.
Well,
one of the
hopefully,
things I wish they'd bring back is more like in the original Soul Edge or Soul Blade or whatever they called it in America. I think it was Soul Blade in America.
you have the endings where if you did a button press, it would change the ending like while it was playing out. I'd like to see more of that in those types of games, you know, in addition to the regular gameplay. Like if they did a Quantum Break sequel, maybe you can, while you're watching, it gives you something to do or something to try to change or kind of lean toward as it's playing out. In addition to, you know, the other side where you're actually doing all the time dilation stuff.
Now, great. Did you finish Quantum Break or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so you know what I'm talking about screen. Like I hate like getting into detail about it because I know some people haven't beaten it yet, and I know it's an old game, and I'm usually like after a few weeks, it's fair game. But with how that game ended, that game didn't end with a definitive conclusion, really. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And
Because 505, they're in need of some good PR, and I hope at some point they're going to announce that they're doing a shared world game that's going to be Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and the chick from Control, and they're all going to be in it, and it'll tie up all the loose ends from Quantum Break. And I hope,
Yo, that would be like a crazy sci-fi universe, kind of like all tied together.
That'd be amazing. With Avengers and Marvel, and even though over on the DC side, games that are being made, Remedy has the perfect opportunity to do 3 games and make one game using those characters from 3 different ones. That will be amazing. But we'll see. With 505, I don't know they'll get to do that. Hopefully, they'll subsidize it and let maybe Microsoft will pay for it, and 505 will just take their cut of the money and be happy.
Yeah. The only thing that I've heard kind of like behind closed doors in terms of like what developers, publishers, and kind of like companies think about Remedy is they think they're way too slow with development. Like they take their sweet ass time developing games.
Yeah, that was where the whole beef with Microsoft was. It wasn't the fact that Quantum Break didn't sell like they thought it would. That was supposed to be a launch, come out much earlier than the Xbox One's lifespan, but Remedy kept dragging on, and Microsoft was like, "No, you were supposed to have this game out. You needed it, you know, within that launch window, and you didn't have it ready." And they were pretty upset with them. And so when the sales numbers wasn't that great, they were like, "No, we ain't making a sequel. We're not giving you another penny." And even though they're doing the campaign for
Crossfire X.
But see, that was part of that contract that they signed. They actually owed Microsoft another game. And,
really?
When they signed that deal, it was going to be for 2 more games, and one of them was Quantum Break, and then they still owed them 1 more game, and Microsoft didn't want a sequel to it, so they've just been waiting, and then they finally said, "Hey, make us a campaign for this game that we're putting out." And so that's how that came about.
So in other words, you're telling me we probably won't see a Quantum Break sequel at all then, right?
Oh, no, I think it can still happen because Microsoft's pretty lenient about, you know what, have the game back, have the property, you can do whatever you want with it. And they've shown that, you know. So
yeah. Well, they buy, they like, at least with like Insomniac and Sunset Overdrive, Insomniac bought the rights back to Sunset Overdrive. They literally bought the rights from them. So if Remedy is willing to pay, because at the end of the day, corporation companies, if you look into the definition of corporation, like it says in there that their main goal is to make money. You know, and
right.
So if they're going to be like, hey, I'll give you so much money for that IP, so we can go and make a sequel. If it's enough money, Microsoft be like, okay, no problem, here you go.
Yeah, and I can see it happening, and we'll see. But they got on some shaky ground there early in this generation, but now I think it's okay. And especially with Crossfire X, that campaign is as fire as I think it's going to be. and finally turns the corner.
And on time.
Yeah,
From what I'm hearing,
it's
it's on time as well.
Yeah, but the other knock against them is their games don't sell enough. So hopefully, they'll have a hit on them with that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate when it comes down to, because if you look, like, when it came to Quantum Break, if you just looked at it really quick, if you just looked at somebody playing the game really quick, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. It doesn't really catch your eye. You actually have to, if you sit there and watch somebody playing it for like a couple seconds, you'll start to get interested in it. But at quick glance, like, there's nothing really that pops out in their games that really kind of hooks a gamer to be like, yo, what is that? Until you actually just like watch people. Because I know with Quantum Break, one of the things that I thought was insane was when time froze. When time froze, all the things that were flying in the air and stuff, as your like player bumped into them, they would move.
Yeah.
And they would, like, you would clear your way from debris that was suspended in the air.
That was revolutionary.
That was insane. Like I
There
literally.
was also another cool thing with that. If you listen,
Well, my big thing is that the budget on that was probably a little bit too high too, because they were doing the whole TV show thing, so they hired like real actors instead of voice actors that are within the gaming community that you don't have to pay nowhere near what they had to pay those real actors. And I think that made the budget skyrocket. And then they were late getting the game to Xbox and took too long, and then it didn't sell enough, and they ended up.
Mojo, you want to hear something crazy about that?
Yeah.
You remember the beginning of the game? You remember the taxi driver?
Yeah.
That was the main character before they got Iceman.
Yeah, I remember that. They changed the character, didn't they?
Yeah, that was the main character before. Like, and I remember when I first started playing, I'm like, yo, that was the original guy. And they made him
crazy.
A taxi driver.
That's such a downgrade.
I'm an Alan Wake fanatic, and just they hopefully they don't go down this rabbit hole with 505 of doing like stupid anti-consumer things. But we'll see. I mean, 505 gave them the money to make the game, so they can have them sell it and do the DLC however they want. But yeah, it's not cool not using the giving free upgrades for the next gen systems, because it's bad business practices the way they handle that.
Yeah, and somebody accidentally flicked the switch real quick, didn't they, over there? Oops. Oh, did I do that?
Remedy did that stuff on purpose to kind of, because them saying that they couldn't do it, everybody knew that was BS, and they knew it was BS. That came from 505, and so now there's some more pressure on them to do the right thing.
I got you, brother. But check this out, Mojo, Gray, Skint. Yeah, I have had an absolute blast, but I got to get out of here. I got to, take care of the kids, make sure they're not like killing each other, all that good stuff. So
we need to. We were only going to do an hour tonight, and now we've been on for 2 hours and 43 minutes.
Crazy.
Dude, when you invite me on a show, just be prepared. That happens. Like, dude, if you ever, next podcast goes like 2 hours. Like, even with me and Jamie, we when it comes to Series X podcast, we're like, an hour and a half or so. Like 2 hours later, we're still talking. I'm like, Jamie, we got to wind it down, man. We said an hour and a half, and we're going crazy right now. But Mojo, again, it has been a lot of fun, dude.
Appreciate you being here.
I will be checking this show out. I can't wait to see like the evolution of this. That's one thing I've noticed. Like when people start new shows on their channel, if you ever go back and check out the very first Next podcast, you can see we were all incredibly nervous.
Yeah, there's going to be like at some point, I'm going to start like making milkshakes on the show and showing people recipes and things. It can be about anything. And I've got like a 1950s diner style milkshake maker that's just amazing. By the time
Okay, now I'm thirsty.
we roll into winter, but by the time we get back into say next spring, yeah, I'm gonna be making some milkshakes on Saturday nights. And, I actually had once. I was just going to do them as straight up videos, and I bought a bunch of different ice creams and different stuff. And that's when I got sick, and
I love Mojo.
never done it.
Mojo, yo, you are awesome, brother. I am
making movies and games.
Dude, I am so glad. I am so glad I hopped on. Thank you for giving me that invite, bro. I will be following you. Gray Wolf. What is your Twitter handle? Is it down in?
It's Gray Wolf Gamer 1 without the spaces.
All right, so I'm typing that in now. Gray.
It's the same icon. I use the same icon, so
I'm getting there.
and remember, it's Gray with an E.
Yes, I did that.
Okay.
Go to. Yep, there it is. I am following you now.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for putting up with me talking so much. I do that a lot.
Nothing wrong with that.
my family gets sick and tired of hearing me talk as well. But thank God there's people out there that enjoy me talking enough to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Mojo being one of them.
Oh yeah,
brother. Thank you for all your support, man. I really do appreciate it. It's good to see the community come together. And let me know when you want me on again. I'll be on as long as I'm free. I'll be on whenever you need, bro.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, me too.
We're
nice one, Mojo.
Trust me, I'm going to use your appearance on here to promote the hell out of the Saturday night.
You want to hear Xbot ramble on about Dreamcast and Quantum Break? Check this out. Check it out.
Well, we're going to be consistent, though. We're going to be on every Saturday night, just like the Wednesday show. I'm going to be there every Wednesday until I build up a decent audience. And I think that's really key. Show up you're doing a podcast every week, week in, week out. We're small now, but we'll grow.
Consistency. That is the biggest thing, man. Any people like that come to me for advice being new to YouTube, because let's be real, I got a small channel, but I've been on YouTube for quite a few years, so anybody that ever asks me advice, I'm like, the first thing is consistency. People need to know that they're going to be able to see new content from you at a certain point in time every week, and if that happens, then people will start coming in. That's the number one rule.
Yeah, and I'm gonna drop videos on my channel too. It's not just gonna be the podcast. I'm gonna throw my little Note 9 up on a tripod I got with an external mic hooked up to it, and do all kinds of either game or movie reviews and other stuff. And maybe I'll go back and do some of the milkshake things on that.
You got to play the milkshake song like.
I'm gonna probably do a theme song. I actually collect knockoff classic guitars that I buy off a Chinese website. So I've got like a 1968 Gibson or 58 Gibson Les Paul that in real life is worth about $100,000 if you could actually find one. It's what Jimmy Page played and other people. But I've got a knockoff that looks really real, and I just recently got a Stratocaster like Jimi Hendrix played, Stevie Ray Vaughan, a blonde Strat, and you can get small amps for them. So, and I can't really play the guitar, but I can make noise on it. So I'm gonna do my own theme song, just make notes on the guitar. And
I could talk to you forever. My brother gave me a 1979 Fender Stratocaster, real Fender Stratocaster, Sunburst.
Oh, nice.
Last ones made in the United States before they moved the factories to Mexico. And so it was worth quite a bit of money. And unfortunately, I was young and stupid, and I sold it.
Yeah, there was years where I was like living in places like Korea and going to Thailand, and I was buying like, knockoff guitars for almost nothing, and I was just giving them away to people as gifts. And not that they're worth anything now, but it was like, wow, I had those. I don't know why I just kept giving them away, never kept any for myself. So, but then now I'm getting them. I'm gonna get at least 2 more. I want to get a Fender Telecaster, and then I also want a Flying V. And I'm gonna put 4 of them, not just more of a display thing, and they just look cool. Yeah,
Nice.
I collect. I don't play hardly any fighting games, but yet I collect fight sticks. So I'm just that person that I love fight sticks. So I've got about 20 of them, and I'm not crazy. I mean, some people have like hundreds.
Don't tell K Mega you don't like fighting games, but you have a bunch of fight sticks, man. He won't understand that whatsoever. He is a big fighter guy.
I watch his show and I listen to him on years, but I don't even have like 20. I think I've got maybe 12, but I go all the way back. I've got like a 5 stick.
He'll be like, how much you want for those sticks, man? I'll put them to use. I'll put them to use.
And more of the modern ones, they're so expensive. I quit buying them. I've got like a Mayflash F300 that I use for the PS4 and the Xbox, and it works great. I'm happy with it. I need to use a 5 stick, but I've got like an original PS1, PS2, and Namco 5 stick. Yeah, I love it. And it's real hard to get those now that are in good condition anymore.
Dude, it sounds like you have a treasure trove at your house, brother. Again, like, dude,
Yeah,
Mojo,
hopefully, stuff over the years. I've got a lot.
Mojo, hopefully we are friends on Xbox. I'm gonna double check once I make sure again the kids aren't killing each other. They're just really too quiet right now, and I'm very uncomfortable with that because they are 12-year-old boys. Like there is no need for them to be this quiet unless
they're in trouble.
yeah. But again, thank you guys so much. I had a blast, and I'll be talking to you guys. I'm following you, Gray. I'll be tweeting at you at certain points in time, and same with you, Mojo. Mojo, it was a blast talking to you, man. I've seen you in the chat so much. On my channel. I appreciate the support, and it was good to finally shoot the breeze with you, bro. And Skint, man, I get to say Skint, and you can hear me, and I can hear your reaction, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, Dealer has cold, but I got Skint.
Yeah, good night. Good night. Very good night.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care. Take care. Thanks. Good to meet you.
All right, guys. We'll be back next week. So cool.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mojo.
Whatever. You can find the show Mojo_Blues1 over on YouTube. I'll send out another link for anybody that wants to watch it later. I'll put out another couple things on Twitter. But yeah, good show, Gray Wolf. I didn't mean to keep you on so long. I know you had originally said by 8.
Yeah, it was engaging and fun. That's all that matters. And thank you for having me.
No, thank you. When I didn't have anybody for this show, boom, I had you. So that's pretty cool. So hopefully we'll get watching after the fight, and we'll start building up that audience. All right. Good night, everybody. We're done.
Good night.